to see an ever-changing news and computer terminology. Commodore news. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Yes, the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up with the Commodore? Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you. Are you keeping up? Cause the Commodore is keeping up with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 146 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We're using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we're in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week, we start our look at March 1990, and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 59 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in the UK singles and albums chart that month. Graham, tell us whether this is going to be March Madness or a further march into mundanity.
The madness of March 1990 is upon us, and in the month that saw Star Trek V win a Golden Raspberry, we head into the fourth dimension on a bug hunt, ensuring we pack some DEET and Citronella in the semi-naked Defenderish clone, Insects in Space. We try to come to terms with the blocky nastiness of another C64 software faux pas with Wild Streets, and bravely take to the cockpits of our F-15s and swoop around the skies in single-digit FPS, taking on the craziness of the MiG-31 in Fighter Bomber. Goodness me, a lot of weird things happened in March 1990, including the US performing a nuclear test at their Nevada test site. How crazy is that? While we wonder how big a thump sound that created, we scoot along the colourful half-platform, half-RPG world of the unusual arcade conversion of Super Wonderboy, get our helmets and best protective gear on as we look across the rugged terrains and then go for a walk in Pro Mountain Bike Simulator, blast everything we can and swoop around the well-designed budget world of Neutralizer before finally heading back into the fourth dimension as we bounce our way around some funky platforms looking for diamonds in the probably annoying Head the Ball. Well, March is off to an interesting start because thanks to some extra dimensional developers, there is some decent blasting to be had. Better that than some of the wilder games in that list, shall we say. That's for damn sure.
Could be either.
I was stunned silence for the use of the word mundanity. Don't hear that often in pods, dear.
You don't. There's another word I'm going to say later on you probably don't hear very often either as well.
Eisenclapper.
It's giddy. Giddy.
Giddy is a good word.
Giddy. We get a giddy on. Actually, no, we say giddy bob quite a lot.
Actually, yeah, we use the word. I think we're bringing it back though for things.
Yeah, we are bringing it back. So it's a new month. We'll get into it. February is in the past in more ways than one.
February's cowpats can now be firmly said to be behind us.
They can, and not on our head.
8-bit cowpats.
Place of a pat on the head. Should we look at the cover?
Yeah, all right.
Let's look at that cover.
Okay. Seems a very reasonable request. Oh, of course, it's this cover.
It's this cover.
Yes, this cover.
I quite like it. I think it's quite good.
Yeah.
It's quite amusing. It's obviously the Insects in Space.
It is.
Although it doesn't actually say that anywhere on the cover.
I don't think you need to, really. But it doesn't, you're right.
It kind of would be handy. Why have you done this? But it's the fourth dimension, one of the fourth dimensions.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It is, yeah.
So this is a naked angel firing lasers from her eyes with a handy placed leg up and a winged arm across her bosom area.
Yes, she's covering up her delicates, as it were.
Yes, she's flanked by a winged baby and a baby being carried off with his ass in the air by some evil-looking bees and hornets and what have you. Good cover. I like it. I think it's a good cover.
Yeah, I read in the Sensible Software book that this cover came as a complete surprise to them, and they didn't have no idea that they were going to do it. They were like, "Oh, great! Thanks." Absolutely no idea.
That's cool. That would be a nice surprise. Just to go into your local newsagent to see your game on the cover of Zap, immortalised by Oliver Frey.
Full-blown Ollie Frey, yeah. It's good. Actually, it is good. It's one of the better ones. I mean, it's a good depiction of that kind of artwork. It shows you that he had a real talent for that kind of fantasy art, really, that you never really get to see. We haven't seen a lot of this kind of stuff in here for ages, have we?
No, we haven't. And it's also a good representation of the game.
Yeah, totally is. Yeah, you can't no mistake in that.
No. So we like it. It's good.
Well, if
But
anything, a couple of the items there are probably underrepresented compared to how they are in the game. We'll see about that later.
that's possibly true. Yeah. We also talk about some Domax Castle Master free kit.
Oh no, all caps is back in this front cover, isn't it? Blame me. It's the all cap edition. Goodness me. Even the number one for CBM64 is in caps. It's like caps everywhere, caps. Like, goodness me, I think his caps lock broke. He's like, oh, damn it. Oh, well, shouting it is.
It's a pull-out feature as well, Graham. The Zapped Bible, Part 1.
Yeah, what is it? Don't feel you need to explain what that is.
I don't know. I didn't look. I think it's basically just all the games they've reviewed and the scores.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what it is. But it's like the Bible Part 1. Is that what is it? Is it the New? Is it the Old Testament? Is it the
Old
New
Testament?
What is it?
I guess. I don't know.
Old Testament. Yeah.
Doesn't sound. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's not what the Zapped Bible's about, but maybe it is. I didn't read it. But...
It'd be funny if it was. And
well, I don't know if it'd be funny.
And low in the first day, Roger Keane did say, "These are the 10 Commandments."
Some of the motion games look like they were made in 6 days anyway, and then they had a rest, so it probably would explain quite a few of them.
It probably would explain quite a them. But yeah, it's a good cover, this. It's not too bad, but...
it is good. Good shaping of the female anatomy with the right proportions and not... I don't think it's overly sexualized, actually. I think that it's a bit more fantasy than sexualization in that, which is good to see. Good to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is good. So there you go. That's the cover. It's £1.50 still. Not selling it elsewhere anymore, are they? Not selling it in Germany or America anymore.
No,
it's just for here. There we go. Right, that's your cover. Should we get in some games?
Let's do it.
We've got quite a lot of games. We've got 7.
Ooh, what?
7 games. I know it's double, almost double what we had last time. But yeah, so let's get into those. Let's get into our first one for this week. And Graham, that's over to you to tell us what. Well, we've just seen the cover. Now explain what this fourth dimension insects in space is all about.
Okay, well, this is part of the fourth dimension. It was a kind of a 4-game thing, wasn't it, from Houston? Mm-hmm. And so there's a couple of games in this episode that we'll talk about that from that. This is the first of one of those, and of course, this is Insects in Space. This got 94% in Zap. The game overall, remember there's 4 games in there. This is $12.99, so it's a budget game, really. In essence.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
And it was a Sizzler, I believe, as well, at 94%. Well, at least. And I don't know if does the Sizzler equate to the total amalgamation for all 4, or is the Sizzler just for this one? I don't know. They review them separately, didn't they? So.
They do. I think some get Sizzlers, some don't. So.
Okay, so it's a Sizzler. It's obviously published by Houston, but the developer here is Sensible Software. Interesting, that. Yeah. Coded by Chris Yates, of course, and the musician is Martin Galway. Now, the graphics aren't in Lemon given credit to anyone, but the graphics are actually by John Hare in this.
They look like his.
Yeah, they are definitely by him. And in his book, he says, I did them, so it must be him.
And he wouldn't lie.
And he wouldn't lie. He wouldn't lie. Yeah, exactly. He's not a lying kind. And he wouldn't write a book just to prove a point like that. That'd be kind of stupid.
That's overkill. You just post it on the forum somewhere. Just
to give a little bit of a background blurb, this was coded in a very short space of time because it was. And it was sold for £4,000 in totality. That's how much Houston paid for this in completeness, which in the book they say is good money for a budget game because Firebird at this point was slowing down their budget releases. And so Houston was the only kind of buyer in town for this kind of thing.
$4,000, that's not bad. That's back then anyway, 1990.
That's what John Hare said. And there's a few interesting little factoids with this. So this was always a fun and tongue-in-cheek game. We've got to remember that. Mm-hmm. It was later released for the Amiga and the Atari ST, but the C64 is the original version. And this is the last C64 game from Sensible Software. So it's it's the final hurrah. And it's also the last C64 SID ever made by Martin Galway as well.
Oh, wow.
Now, funnily enough, John Hare didn't even realise that Martin Galway did the music for it. Sure, what happened there?
Don't know the cover. Don't know the musician. What does he know? Does he know anything?
I thought they were genuinely working together at this point, but apparently not. Anyway, and there's some comments from Martin Galway in the book as well. He was basically doing another big project that never came to be. We've mentioned it before. I can't remember the name of it now, but there was a big project that they were looking at. Never happened. And this, who knows when this happened, when the music happened, but it did. They're just footnotes from the Sensible Software book. I'm going to go through a little bit of the scenario because it is fun and it's short. So according to the scenario and the instructions, which were a pig to find on the internet, let me tell you, this says, once upon a time, deep in the heart of Germany, there lived a big-breasted angelic woman called Hellenbach.
Hey.
Yeah. Thousands of years later, long after she had passed away, Earth was invaded by a strange race of insects intent on populating the planet. They had reached every corner of the world, but for this remote valley in the middle of the Rhineland Sea, what it says in the instructions. What had happened, right, was that, this is how it's written, what had happened, right, was that the insect's deadly poison did not affect small babies in the area due to their diet of local grape juice. So they still survived. St. Helen, archleader of the Motherhood, heard the distant, impoverished cries of the poor babies from space and has travelled to Earth in a last desperate bid to save mankind, quote unquote. Equipped with her laser eyes and your skill and judgment, you are to help St. Helen in her task to rid the planet of this awful insect menace. Okay, so the gameplay then. St. Helen has to stop the bees from grabbing the babies, taking them to a great height and dropping them to the ground and making a nasty mess on the floor. If she shoots a bee while he is carrying a baby, the baby will fall to its death unless it is caught by Helen and returned safely to the ground. She has to return top babies to the top landscape surface and bottom babies to the bottom landscape. If she leaves the bees to carry the babies for too long, they will drop the babies to their death and also give birth to a fly in their excitement, which will cause Helen extra hassle. St. Helen has 2 weapons. One is her superb laser vision to combat the evil forces of the universe. Use this by pressing fire for a short time. The second gift bestowed upon her by the gods on high is the ability to conjure up a magical circle of space-time continuum dust. Do this by holding down the fire button for longer than usual. This will enable Helen to travel through space by continuing to hold down the fire button as she enters the dust circle. St. Helen can be carrying more than one baby at a time, and if she has enough babies at one time, she can temporarily save them by entering a dust circle without holding the fire button down, thereby keeping them out of the clutches of the evil insects. At least until another wave descends, that is. At this time, she's also gifted with extra bonus feature capability, dependent on the number and combination of top and bottom babies she holds. I'm not going to go through the chart, but there's a chart in the instructions which tells you, as you collect the various babies, you get extra babies, top-up powers, bombs, skip 3 levels, and there's a whole bunch of sort of crazy juice that you can apply there. There's a score panel as well, and it sort of tells you what the score panel is. So that's just nuts and bolts of the game. This is basically a Defender game. It's Defender, and it's the Defender done sensible style. So there's some nice nuances with this game for a Defender style game. Firstly, you've got a naked winged angel with large boobs instead of a spaceship. And when I say large boobs and a nipple, a pixel nipple. We don't often see the attention to detail on sprites. Well done, John. Good to see that. I like to think that he took his time over that, especially the animation. Second, we have little babies to rescue. That's a bit weird, isn't it? But it is essentially the same as Defender. Instead of a spaceship, you've got a naked woman with the boobs hanging out. And instead of the little thingies that you pick up, you've got babies. So that's essentially the same thing. All right, it's riff on all of that stuff, fine. The slight difference is, though, the screen scrolls up and down, which is quite a nice thing. It makes it a little bit more frantic, but it's quite a nice touch to proceedings. It meant that they just put a little bit of extra into these games. Now, we've said this time and time again about these things. If you're going to do a game like this, fine. Okay, they could have just copied it. But adding a little extra in just gives it a little bit of difference, and it actually makes the game quite interesting and a little bit more challenging in some ways. You control all the action with the joystick in a much more kind of traditional Defender style, with directions for movement and fire to shoot lasers from your eyes. And of course, if you hold down fire, you get the dust thing. So if you change direction, you actually get that proper Defender sweep across, which I don't think we've seen that properly. Maybe there was one other game that did it. I think maybe the actual Defender. I don't think even the Defender did. I can't remember, but when I did it, when I was playing this game, I was like, oh, actually, that's pretty cool. And it felt like it was the first time I'd seen it done properly on the C64, because I don't know why it's never been done that way before, but okay. So that's quite nice. As you shoot across the sky, you'll be shooting at the aliens who pop all over those, a la Defender, and they fly at you, and then, of course, they're going to pick up the babies. You've got to shoot them, pick them up. As I've explained out of the gameplay, that's what it says in there is exactly what it says in the tin. No more, no less. The radar at the top shows the position of your enemies, just like Defenders does when you have one in Defender. Same kind of display as well. Tiny little dots represent the enemies. It's a really nice little functional radar, though. And, of course, there's more to zoom around in this game, so the map and the view is a bit bigger. The radar's bigger. The UI also displays your lives, extra weapons, number of rescued babies, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. It shows you your shield indicators, that number that you've got of the number of babies and what that relates to in terms of the chart and everything else. So all of the information you need is on the screen. You don't need any more than that's there. The graphics, I think, are well created here with a good array of sprites in that kind of Defender tradition. There's quite a lot of them. They're all introduced to you when the game starts. You get the kind of the music and everything, the title screen, and then if you hang around, you see the world's largest high score table. And I'll come to the one issue with that in a minute, but there's the world's largest high score table. And of course, you'll see all the different insects. Now, they did a similar thing to this in another game that Sensible gave us, which was a budget one, where you had that kind of, we introduced the enemies at the start. I forget which one it was, but one of theirs did it.
Was it Oh No?
Yeah, something like that. But it's like classic arcade style, isn't it? Yeah, Defender does the same thing. And so, like I said, the graphics are actually pretty good. So you've got more of a map. You've obviously got all the display. The game itself takes up principally I would say probably the 3/4 of the screen, with the top quarter being the UI, really. I think that's a fair assumption. And I actually quite liked all the graphics and the way they were drawn. Yes, the array of sprites is in that Defender tradition, but they are all unique to this game. They are all little insects. There is a kind of space Bavaria quality, a Bavarian space quality to the scrolling ground planes. It is kind of space Germany, which is really weird, but I'm not sure if maybe John just came back from holiday or something, but there is kind of this sort of, I don't know, Germany in space vibe, because you've got stars in the background, and then at the top you've got kind of a scrolling background at the bottom. So I think standard Defender, turn it on its head, and then if you go up to the top of the screen, you've got another kind of top version of that. So it's kind of sandwiched between two sort of planes, I guess, ground planes, I guess, and an upper plane, which is nice. Mm-hmm. The game is difficult, of course. Wouldn't be a Defender game if it wasn't like nigh on impossible. Uh-huh. And it's got that frantic pace. So it feels very like an arcade. It's got a very, very arcade tone and feel to it. There's lots of explosions in the game, lots of nice visual effects going on, great sound effects. I thought the scrolling speed was really good. Controls felt really responsive. This is pretty good. It is very difficult, but you know what? Defender is a difficult game. There's no way around. I mean, if you go to the arcade and play Defender now, it's not like it's a walk in the park. It's really, really hard. Yeah, so it's a hard game. But that's what it is. And I think if you're going to do a version of Defender, you have to make it hard. Because if you make it easy, it'd be boring. Because you need that frantic mania. That's Defender, right? The large high score table is fine in there, but it's unsavable, which is, I think, a bit of a weird mistake. I guess this is on tape and all the rest of it, but it just seems like...
Most high score tables aren't savable.
Well, they are on disc. All of them are on disc. But on the disc version of this, it wasn't savable. You couldn't save your high scores. So I guess budget, I know, but it just seems a bit of an oversight for a game. But maybe it is what it is. You accept it for the... What is it? What it would have been, £3, $2.99 really, if it was budget.
Yeah.
And because it's budget, you're getting a lot of good and extremely well playable game for your money here for a Defender clone. I don't know. The naked sort of characters, I don't know. It's a bit teenage. Ooh, look at that kind of thing. But the whole game is tongue-in-cheek, remember. You're not meant to take a sensible game seriously, really. But there is the polish of sensible upon it. It has a sensible polish, this game. Everything is coded to a real high level here. Mm-hmm. And this, I thought there was a lot of fun to be had. I mean, this probably out-defenders a game like Drop Zone in the sense that it's probably closer to Defender than Drop Zone was. But Drop Zone still is an amazing game. And they exist in equal spaces of there's an arrow to both of these from Defender. And they both have their little nuances that they do slightly differently, which is great. And I think it maybe out-arcades Whizball in the sense that it's got far more of an arcade feel to this for its bang for its buck than perhaps Whizball did. But no, that's no bad thing. And then finally, of course, there's the audio. I thought the audio was really good in this. It's really weird, an unusual sort of buzzy, sort of insecty sound when it starts. It's pretty clever, and then it gets quite good. Really great sound effects, though. The sound effects really make this because it's good. We've had a few games, side-scrolling shooters before. The look can be there, but if it doesn't have the sounds to match, or it's empty of sound. No, and this is something that we know that Sensible and Martin Galway are good at. I think Whizball was a good game, don't get me wrong, but the soundscapes in it were really enriching the experience all the time. And it's the same is to be said with this. So there's a lot to like for cheap, isn't there, here? I mean, the irony of it was that this didn't actually do very well on its release, apparently, this Fourth Dimension thing. $4,000 for them. They were happy with that for this, probably more than they got for some other things. And it was their final goodbye. I don't think it took them long to do. But upon playing this, and it's not a game I'd really played before, or at least I don't remember it, I thought this was pretty good. A bit of a sort of a good final hurrah from Sensible, just to sort of kick some dust and some sand in and throw some pocket sand in some people's faces and go, do you know what? For £2, £3, it's not difficult to create a really good game on the 64. You don't need to create all of this silly crazy. Just have a bit of fun with it. Just make sure the polish is there. And this is something I've spoken to John here about many times before, over many years. For him, polish on these things was always very important. A small, tight game loop, a concise range of things to do, and polish the hell out of it. Because if you do that, you end up with a game like this. And $4,000, well, I think that's money well earned. £3 for people as part of this compilation. Money well spent. I really like this. I thought it was really good fun. Nice to see Sensible. Thank you very much for a little bit of juice in March compared to the crap that we had in February. But what did you think?
Yeah, it's a chaotic thing, isn't it? Chaotic thing this is. As you've rightly said, Sensible Software does Defender. I thought it had a almost Minter-esque approach to things. There's a bit of Minter in this, I think, and they sort of
it's got the mania, craziness, the colours,
and that sort of thing. It's crazy fast to play. It's like it's hard on the eyes as you control your naked angel and try and save the babies from the evil insects. Yeah. There's a sentence you don't say very often.
It's true.
I think the inclusion of a more vertical playing field is interesting. Having babies on both the top and bottom of the level adds some variety as well, and I think that's a good thing because if it was just flat, it'd just be another defender, wouldn't it? But having that kind of vertical style into it, which is another thing that kind of reminded me of Minter sort of thing, because he does things on top and bottom quite a lot, doesn't he? Things like Iridis Alpha, I think.
Iridis Alpha, it does.
Yeah, those kind of things. That's what kind of put me in mind. But, it's another version of Defender, all said and done, another very well done version of Defender. It's another Galway piece that I'd not heard before as well. I'd never heard this piece of music. I was completely unaware of this. It's a weird one, isn't it? It does a very good job of simulating the noise of buzzing insects, though.
Yeah, it does.
At the beginning, it was bzzz. I was like, oh, that's really good.
It's very waspy,
Yeah, it's very good. But the tune itself it's okay. It's not classic Galway. It's all right.
No.
It's okay. The visuals in this, they're small, but they work. Whole pace of the game is just it's pure arcade, isn't it? It's just pure arcade.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And you need arcade reactions to really do this. I don't know whether it was just me or whatever. It was maybe just a little jerky at times. I just found it a little bit hard to control and just a bit. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just me and the pace. It's the pace of the game, I think.
It's
trying
mad.
to react. So I just couldn't get accurate shots sometimes. Maybe it's down to the vertical nature of the game as well. Because of Defender being on a flat plane, you're not sort of fighting the scrolling or you kind of know your movement, if that makes sense. So the screen can scroll and can move an object down. Yeah. You're kind of fighting two things. So I don't know whether that was it, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'm not sure. However, part of the package, though, like you said, this $12.99 and there's 3 more games to come in this package. It's a great start to this. It's a really, really good, fun arcade blast. I think 94% was for this game on its own. I think the whole package got a sizzler, but I can see for what is it, £3.25 of the whole package. Well worth 94% this. Well worth it. Really good.
Absolutely.
Really good and fun. Fast. It's just a fast, good blaster.
Yeah, recommended.
Absolutely. Insects in space. Yeah, good fun. There we go. Well, that's the first one out of the way. So let's move on, not to another part of the fourth dimension, but maybe to our second game, which will hopefully be just as good.
This didn't come out the fourth dimension. That's for damn sure.
Oh God, this is Wild Streets. So it's £9.99. This came from Titus.
Great.
And comes the story of a war-torn New York and the struggle of one man and his panther to rescue the head of the CIA in the wild streets. I've no idea who made this. There are no credits that I could find beyond the Amiga and Atari ST versions. But I have to say, if I had made this, I'd have Alan Smithered this. I would not have wanted my name on the box for this.
No, maybe not.
There is a story.
Not as such.
There is a story to Wild Streets, because of course there is, and it goes, Graham, like this. New York, 1998. The once most prestigious of cities is now nothing but a shanty town. Half of the city is left in ruins, and it is in that part of town that the marginals and rodents, hunted by the state police, seek refuge. Paradoxically, the other half of the city consists of lavish mansions, where the most important drug barons reside. Unfortunately, they are the ones who run the city, and thanks to the enormous profits they make from their drugs and arms dealings, they have succeeded in destabilizing the country's economy. The US government finds itself in the middle of a terrible crisis now that they have lost complete control over the city. The CIA, headed up by John Stephen, has been called upon to clean up the city of its villains. The plan is to reorganize the city by placing security checkpoints at strategic positions. The CIA works outside of the US. I just want to say that, not inside. That's their whole directive. The FBI are the internal sort of federal police. The CIA are Central Intelligence Agency. They're the sort of foreign stuff. They don't work internally. The operation was set into motion on April 4th and quickly proved to be an unprecedented success. The badly organized smaller street gangs were greatly outnumbered and were no match for the extremely well-armed law enforcement troops. On the 7th of May, during a successful raid, I like the fact that it's got dates. On the 7th of May, during a successful raid, the state police's special branch took possession of an enormous arsenal of weapons and ammunition, valued at over $2 million. This raid marked an important stage in the whole operation. Realizing the sticky situation they were in, the heads of organized crime now started making plans for themselves. They needed to re-establish their control over the city and, above all, secure their takings. On May 15th, they staged the kidnapping of John Stephen in order to get the names of his lieutenants in the CIA's fight against organized crime. This way, they are convinced they can stay in control of the situation and become even more powerful. Your mission, therefore, starts at the spot where John Stephen was last seen. You are deposited by helicopter, accompanied only by your Magnum 357 and Black Virgin, your magnificent Black Panther, especially trained for your protection.
Right. Okay.
You'll have to travel through the various parts of the city in search of the hostage, and you will find that your street fighting skills will prove to be very useful. In each part of the city, you will confront various enemies and their gang leaders. Once you reach your destination, you must rescue John Stephen and safely escort him back to the helicopter. Pay attention. Stephen's fighting skills are non-existent, and his physical condition is no match to yours. If he dies during the return journey, then this means the drug barons are one step closer towards victory. Because I guess it's going to take some time to hire a new one. Someone else.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, that's the story, and that's your mission. There you go. Black Virgin. That's the name of your panther.
So stupid.
There are two things you'll notice when the game starts. The music is the first. It's an oral dirge that plays all the way through. Broken only up when you make it past the level. It's the kind of tune that wants to be, it's the kind of tune that wants to be driving you along. Like you can feel it, and it's with its tempo. I can feel what they were trying to do, but ends up just driving you mad because it's all you hear. The second thing you notice is the title screen with the massive panther head on the right and a W in the top left, and slowly scrolling rest of the title coming on from the left to finally spell Wild Streets. Okay, the title screen with its image of New York in flames behind it writes a lot of checks that unfortunately this game did not even receive to try and cash. That's the problem. There's nothing to do here but press the fire button, start the game, and you'll instantly wish you hadn't bothered. It's a flick screen brawler, I guess, and sees you move from left to right in order to make your way through the different levels to save John Stephen. Controls are simple enough: left and right to walk, up to jump, and down to crouch. Holding the fire and pressing a direction does an offensive move. I'm not going to go through them. Makes no difference.
There's no point.
It makes no difference. It doesn't matter. You're also carrying your Magnum, so if you have bullets left, a tap of the fire will shoot it and take out anyone in front of you immediately. The top 2/3 of the screen are the game window, where all the action takes place, and the bottom third is the UI, showing your gun and the number of bullets left. A picture of your panther, for some reason, in the middle, and then your score and health, represented by a blue bar, and the health of John Stevens, represented by a red bar. Let's come back to the panther here for a moment, okay? So when you start the game, you accompany the panther's just walking next to you on the screen. It's obvious that whoever has made this has played Shadow Dancer, the 1989 arcade game from Sega, which is the sequel to Shinobi, where you play as a cool ninja and you can set your canine companion on your enemies. That one. Everyone remembers Shadow Dancer. It's great. That game was great because it had all the Shinobi coolness that we'd spoken about when we looked at Shinobi, and then you had a dog, the sick and the bad guys. It was a cool game. I loved Shadow Dancer. Here, you've got a panther. Panthers are, a magnitude up from the fierceness of dogs.
Quite a bit.
The panther just wanders about for no reason at all. It just wanders. It's just an animated panther just wandering slowly. There are no controls to make it do anything, and it doesn't attack anyone. It doesn't do anything. It just wanders back and forth really slowly, and you just leave it behind. I don't understand the panther in this game. I don't get it. I could obviously just can get it working. So that's it, because that's the other thing with this game, or at least the C64 version of this game. I had a look at the Amiga game. It's a bit different and probably better. There's no game here.
No,
there is no game here. Despite the manual saying you have all those offensive moves, you won't need them because you can simply jump over the enemies to get to the next screen because it's flick screen. Save your bullets for the last two enemies on the final screen. And you can shoot them and just walk off the screen to the next level. That's it. That's all you got to do. There's nothing here. Each level is only made up of 5 screens. 5. There's only 5 levels. Right. It takes maybe a couple of minutes to reach Stephen. Did me anyway. Boing, boing, shoot, next level. Boing, boing, shoot, next level. And then he replaces the panther in that he slowly walks back through the levels. So you've got to essentially just go back through the 5 levels. There's 5 levels, 25 screens. You just got to walk back through them. At this point as well, you can only go a screen's width in front of where Stephen is. So you kind of like, if you move too fast onto the next screen, you kind of butt up against an invisible wall, which makes you sort of jerk at the speed Stevens, because you walk way faster than him. But it's still stupidly easy, because all you've got to do is he won't be attacked on the screen previously. Enemies only appear on your screen. There's no game here. There's nothing. It's just ridiculous. The game only has 5 levels. And supposedly each level is made up of different gangs. According to the instructions, these are the Mutilators, the Streetwise Tigers, the New York Executors, the Bronx Bombers, the Harlem Headcrunchers, the Happy Undertakers, and the West Side Warriors. Somebody's been watching the Warriors as well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean anything, though. It should just fight the same few characters who look like you through each level. There's like two sprite design. Well, one sprite design, they just have different colours. And you're supposed to fight them, but you don't. You just shoot or jump over them. The fighting in this is when you do try and actually engage in the fighting, there's nothing. You don't know what's going on. Are you making contact? There's no sound effects, and it's just rubbish. The game here is just non-existent. But maybe, I don't know, is the presentation decent? No, it's not. It's got annoying music. There's no sound effects. The visuals are awful too. Blocky, badly animated human characters float through the air with mighty leaps or walk in a bad 3-frame staccato animation. It's just dreadful. The enemies will move towards you at random speeds in pairs. Some will sort of mince forward really fast. Others do very slow. There's just no logic to any of this. At times, they may leap into the air. None of this matters. None of it. Because you just jump through it. The backgrounds are ugly and flat and actually depict a pretty nice town. A far cry from this notion of New York following to a shanty town. And when you do finally get to John Stephen, it's just tied to a post. It's just stupid. This whole thing is just stupid. I don't know what happened. None of this makes any sense. It's like it's been made by a 5-year-old. It's a 5-year-old's version of a game. It looks like a 5-year-old's drawing and it plays like one. I'm sorry, we're not usually mean to people, but this is crap. And there's no one dared to put the name to this. Then I feel justified in saying this is utterly awful on every single level. Vapid Vaporware masquerading as a full-price game. There's no game here. Another affront to consumers in 1990 was still playing on the C64. There's nothing wild about these streets. I guess mild streets probably wouldn't have sold so well. How do you make a game where you have a pet panther so bad? I did, like I said, I looked at the Amiga version and the panther does actually do some stuff. This is just awful on every single level. There's not one redeeming thing about this game, not a single thing. And it got 34%. That's a third. No, there's no game. This is a single-digit game. Yeah. I know we've seen some shit so far this year, but this might be the worst. It might be the worst thing because there's nothing here. I hated it. It's just an affront. What did you think?
I thought it was horrible. I could see they were trying to aim for a kind of arcade styling. They missed massively. Maybe that panther drawing at the front title thing was all right. I can't draw panthers, but it was all right. But the game, I mean, good God. What on earth they're thinking of. Just this is the kind of sprite design that International Soccer was doing in 1983. And that only got away with it because it was 1983. This is just terrible. They split down the middle. They flicker all over the place. They're impossible to control and do anything meaningful with other than jump over things and get out of the way. Horrible backgrounds where the buildings all seem to have chocolate bars for doors.
Yes.
Can't explain it. Really piss poor controls. There's literally no impact on anything. The UI makes no sense whatsoever anyway, really. And why is there a panther? It's just such a bad game. And they had the audacity to ask for full price. There is nothing good here. Nothing. Which is exactly the score it should have been given. Nothing. And that's all I'm saying on it because I don't think it deserves any more of my attention. Utterly stupid to release crap like that. So, rubbish. Utterly rubbish. Crazy bad.
I know. Dreadful. Let's move on. We've still got one game left in this section. So, hopefully that may be better than this. Graham, it's over to you to, pilot the Fighter Bomber.
It is Fighter Bomber, isn't it? I suppose it's a 3D flight simulator, really. But it's been interestingly put together, this one. It's $14.99 in its price, which is quite high. It's 63%, though, which is quite low for a flight simulator. Because they normally... Well, they're yin and yang, aren't they, for Zapped? They either love them or they don't.
Yeah, they either give them gold medals like Project Stealth Fighter and stuff.
Or they hate on them. This one, I'm not sure quite what went on, but the developer was Vector Graphics. Now, that's Ian Martin behind the scenes. That's the guy that did Ace and Ace 2 and Star Wars. So this guy can code his way through some 3D and some vector stuff if he wanted to. The design here is Andy Craven, John Lewis, and Kieran Gulniak. Oh, I think that's how you say it. The graphics are Derek Austin and Matt Griffiths. Principally, most of these people were responsible for Ace or Ace 2 or Star Wars on the whole. Generally, it's that gang. And the musician is Paul Summers because there is a little bit of music on it. So it's a flight simulator, isn't it? Now, there's a few interesting things. I mean, without going into, I'm not going to go into the full-blown mechanics of how a flight simulator works. I'll just explain the things you can do that are different in this one, the viewpoints that are a bit different that make it a little bit unique, and then what my experience of those things were. So there's a couple of things that are interesting in this game. Firstly, it's being done in a kind of, there's an attempt to kind of make it a bit more approachable. So this is less technical than one of those Microprose games. So you don't get a 60-page, I mean, there's a hefty manual with this, but it's not, the English part of it is only, 15, 20 pages. So it's got a fair bit of description about setting the scene and things like that, which I'm not going to bore you with. You know, wars happen, they need warplanes. That's why this game exists, so you can fly warplanes around. Mm-hmm. But the cool part about that is that the selections process and the selection things for this feel a little bit more like I'm trying to think of a game that you could align it to, and I'm guessing really kind of a like test drive kind of vibe. So you're almost picking your plane, picking your ordnance, go.
Yeah.
And that's quite an interesting approach to this. Now, I know the other games have done that and they've wrapped it in kind of other stuff, but this kind of cuts to the arcade chase a little bit. So there's 7 different aircraft you can fly in this game. There's the McDonnell Douglas F-15 Strike Eagle, the F-4E Phantom, the F-111F Aardvark. I didn't even know that was called the Aardvark, but there you go, it's an Aardvark. The IDS, the Tornado IDS, so they're the British planes. The Tornado IDS from German version, I don't know what the difference is. The Saab Viggen, of course, and then of course the MiG-27 Flogger from the the USSR at the time. So there's a whole bunch of technical specifications. There's a whole bunch of explanations in the manual about the various ordnance. If you're really into this kind of stuff, that's the kind of thing you're going to want to see in this. And I'm not going to sit here and read you a description of an Exocet missile, because I know that that's not the most thrilling thing that you might want.
No.
But the nice thing about this, so when you go to the selection screen, you'll get through and you can put your name in. So you you choose your name. I've obviously chose Calibos. And then when you get through that, you can then choose your plane. And you can actually change your view of the plane. So you can have the standard side view a la test drive, if you like, where the plane's sort of in profile. And they're nice graphics on it, don't get me wrong, they do look good. But then you can change it to the 3D view as well, and you get like a rotating version of the plane in 3D, and you get to see what it's kind of your poly version, the C64 poly version is going to look like. And they don't look that bad, considering it's on a C64. And they rotate at the kind of way you'd expect them to, maybe a little bit faster, actually. But there's nothing else going on the screen at this time. And but it gives you a sense of the view that you're going to expect. Now, if you've got this far into this game, you've spent 15 quid, and you're on that screen and you've got this manual in hand, it's because you want to. That means you're going to buy into this. So you're going to buy into the visuals. So for me, I don't like flight simulators, whether they're vector or 3D or whatever. I don't like them because I just don't find them very enjoyable kinds of games. They're not my cup of tea. But I can imagine the excitement building in the hand of somebody that's eager to play this. But I'll sort of explain why I think there's good things, and then explain the rationale why I think perhaps this is a bit of a misfire. So uniquely to this game, and I think an interesting thing is after you've done that, you can choose the fighters you're going to be against, because there's a selection of enemy fighters that you can be against. So you can then choose whether you want to be up against an F-14, an F-16, an F-5 Tiger, an MiG-29, a Su-27, a Mirage 2000, MiG-31, the MiG-31. You will not, of course, escape with the MiG-31. That's a terrible impression of the film Firefox.
I thought it was Firefox. I was like, I need to think in Russian now.
The MiG-31 Foxhound, apparently. But you get to choose your airplanes that you're going to encounter in your missions. And I think that's a unique thing. That's the first time I've ever seen that in a game like this. So that means you've got a little bit, so you can there's a little bit more playability at the outset for being able to choose your own plane. And there's no requirement for you to have done something to do that. If you want to play as one of these planes, you can play as whatever you like, and you can fight against whatever you like. You don't have to earn your stripes and get so far in the game to do that. That's just how the game goes, which is quite nice. So there's a nice in. And when you do your mission selection, you can start at different parts. Now, we've said time and time again, one of the things about these games, which is always a pain, is that you start on the runway, you don't know how to fly a plane, who does? And then, you're a bit fingers and thumbs with the controls. And if you like me, every single time, you drop your gear on the plane and then bam, that's it, dead. But this one, you can choose where you start. So you can have free flight mode when you're first in there. And then you can also, to familiarize yourself. But if you go into the missions, you can choose to be on the runway. You can choose to be in the hangar. You can choose to be at 30,000 feet. You can be over a bridge, over a city, behind a tanker, lined up. So you can actually choose a little bit about how you start the game, which is quite nice. And again, so the missions, I'm not going to go through all of them. There's loads of them. There's Operation Sleeper, Operation Farmhouse, Operation Bridgend, Operation Sam Smasher, which I thought was interesting. There's Operation Big Bird, Operation Mole Strangler, which I thought was an interesting one.
Operation Big Bird. Why would you want to kill Sesame Street?
Operation Axe Attack, Operation Tent Buster, which sounds like a campsite waiting to be blown up. An Operation Big Chief. I don't know. There's the different types of missions. So some of those are covert, some of those are tactical, some of those are strategic, some of those are offensive. This is all manna from heaven if you're into these kind of games, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and however you choose, whatever mission you choose and whichever way you've done it, you'll go for the parameters of that, and then you'll start whatever you've done. Now, when I started this, I decided to start on the runway, classic, on the green. I decided to start, because I found the reference guide for this was actually pretty straightforward. Most of the things are in the logical places for these things. So the thrust on it is your number keys, and you press double naught for your afterburner. Your air brake is B, your wheel brake is W. You've got rudder control. You can select your weapon with return. Your function keys are your different views. And you've got a couple of views in there which beg a belief that, they're clearly screenshot views, really. And then you can even zoom in and out of those. So you've got fairly straightforward controls of the plane in terms of speed. You control, obviously, the actual plane with the joystick itself. So you can do all the, the pitching and rolling and ducking and diving and weaving and bobbing and all the things you do. I'm clearly no pilot. And then, of course, from there, of course, when you get your enemies on the screen, you can then press S to select the target for them. You can then track the targets as well. Then you can obviously fire your missiles and you choose your missiles and whatever you want. Standard controls, but I found them quite approachable. Now, the cockpit view of this is quite nice. It changes depending on the plane you chose as well. I forget which one I bloody chose now, but I think I just picked the first one in the list. So the cockpit view I had, you've got your head-up display, obviously, which details your speed, your altitude, and all that kind of stuff you'd expect, and all the kind of armament you've got in quite a nice display. Underneath that, you'll have your cockpit view, which just tells you your missiles. It's got the radar on it and a few of the your landing gear up or down, a few little signals, the things you'd expect to be in there. It's not a hard screen to read in a game like this. And then the game begins and you'll press speed up, you'll press your thrusters, you take your brakes off, which took me ages to figure out, but I am a novice pilot. So I'm just there, literally just there burning fuel with my jets. I didn't think the brakes would be able to hold that back, but anyway, they did.
Strong
anyway,
brakes.
So once I took off into the air, what can I say? The game's fairly easy to control. I was just flying over green with blue, like these standard for these with some lines on the screen. In the standard cockpit view, when I switched to the 3D views, they're interesting. They're interesting enough. So you get a view of the 3D plane and you can zoom around, you can rotate around it, you can zoom in and out with the plus and minus keys, you can do all that kind of stuff. Great for screenshots.
Yep.
And then there's a couple of pointless views. The tower view made me laugh out loud when I went to the tower view because I was just a dot in the distance. I was like, all right, that's useful. And so it literally was just a pixel in the distance. So I was like, great, can't see diddly squat with that. And then there's a tail view, which will go right behind you. And then there's other views. I think what I've come to think of these as is vanity views because they don't really add that much to the game. You're never going to play these games in those views. And I'll tell you why, because the minute an enemy comes into view, this game's FPS slows down to the point when you really have to like it. You really have to like it. You really have to like these kind of games a lot. And you have to suspend your disbelief for about 30 frames a second. So, and I just can't. I can't do that. And I hate to say it, but I can't. Now, the way I'm going to caveat this review, because I'm not going to go much further into it, because the graphics on it are quite nice for what they are. The 3D, it's quite an achievement on a C64. I get that. But this just feels pointless in a game that you can't really do much in. You said it about Spitfire 40, and I think you summed it up quite well. You can't really do the thing you're meant to do in this. But you can, I suppose, if you want to just fly around, you can, if you want to do that. And maybe that gives you a sense of flight because you can change the views and the novelty of that. If you're into it, then there's a nice in. It's fairly quick to get going. The loading time wasn't so bad. You're in, you're on the plane, you're taking off, and you're doing those things. And it's actually easy to control. And if that's the goal of this game, if that was the goal of it, and wrap it around those missions and things, fine. If you're accepting of the parameters and you've got the game in your hand and you spent 15 quid, you're going to be happy with what you got. And I think this works perfectly in service for the kind of people that like Project Stealth Fighters and all the games like this. This sits nicely on the shelf with those. You fancy flying an F-111 and versus a MiG-31, even though you can never catch them because they're so lightning fast, aren't they? And Clint Eastwood's the pilot, so you got to think in Russian. If you want to do that, then you can. And if that's what you want to do at 1 frame a second, I ain't going to stop you. I ain't going to stop you at all. You go for it. You fill your boots with it if you like, because you may as well. But for me, I just found, like I find with all of these games, it's just tedious. Now, the problem I was alluding to earlier is this. This is 1990, and the Amiga and the Atari ST and other machines have got firm hold on the grip now of these games. Mm-hmm. They're making anything like this, when it's side by side with an Amiga or an Atari ST, is going to look crap. And this is out on the other format. So this has obviously been released because there's a C64 is still around, and they've gone, oh, for God's sake, you mean I thought people were using them as doorstops. What? Okay, release one. So then they've done a very adequate job and they've got the right people to do it. No problem with that. But the problem is not anything to do with this game or this team. The problem is you're in a 16-bit world. This is a 16-bit game trying to exist in an 8-bit world. And there's no place for it because I could go onto any of the 16-bit platforms and this would be outgunned every maneuver because they simply don't have the graphic crunch for it. So, like I said, nice to control in its own way if you like that kind of thing. I think there's probably a lot of stuff going on and the enthusiasts will love it. Like I said, some of those cockpit views are interesting. Some of the graphics are quite pretty and well drawn. Some of those missions sound quite intriguing. I don't know what happens in Project Mole Slapper or whatever it was, but I'll go for that. But the 16-bit boys are in the house, aren't they? Which make these 3 or 4 FPS variations, and that's being generous. They look totally and utterly lame in comparison. So even with all those plus points I've said, you cannot outgun the Amiga or the ST, certainly the Amiga, when you're in the Amiga's territory, which this firmly is at this point. It's nice that they did it. Thanks very much. Amazing optimized codes for C64, but you were very late to this show because the Amiga's done it and doing it much better now. So that's my final thought on it. What about you?
Pretty much exactly the same. It's another one of these, isn't it? We haven't seen one for some time.
We haven't.
I'm not counting Spitfire 40 because obviously that came out in 85, but we've not really seen one of these for a while. A blue and green simulator with lots of preamble, choosing munitions and nice title screens, massive manual, everything like that. And then you get to the game and it's just boring. Yeah. And you cannot get away that. I'm sorry, they're just not, these games used to be, we didn't like them. It's like, we don't, but they're just, in the reality, they're just not suited to this machine.
No.
And as you rightly said, I've written it the same. Whilst a few years back, they were the main computers on the market, the C64, the Spectrum, the Amstrad, they were running the rule. The Amiga and the ST are now firmly entrenched. I mean, this is reviewed side by side in the magazine with the Amiga version, and the screenshots are slapped bang next to each other, and you're like, So there's no getting away from it. You just look at them, and the Amiga version got 90%, and the C64 version got 63%. There's no sense of flying a fighter bomber here. There isn't.
No.
Although it does make a change to see filled in polygon, rather than just your vectors. The frame rate for them is slow because it's a 1 megahertz machine or less.
Yep.
There's no getting around that. You can't squeeze more out of this. Maybe you could, but you can't. The dashboard visuals are nice, but they are quite nice. But then it's just that I would expect that. And the package is an impressive one, but it's not the machine for these kind of games. And this gets more obvious with every one of these that is released. If you go back to Project Stealth Bomber or Project Stealth Fighter, Gunship, they were kind of the last hurrah of those on this machine. And even then we were like, ugh. Okay. Yeah. Now, like you rightly said, you're up against far more capable machines that are far more capable of pushing.
Yeah, and they're doing
filled in 3 vectors. Yeah, you see things like No Second Prize and stuff on the Amiga.
Yeah,
this just doesn't stand a chance, and it's not what the machine was built for. When the machine is built for something, insects in space, we can still have really good games. It's not built for this. Yeah, and like you said, I don't doubt the technical prowess to get something like this running on the C64. Very clever coding, very clever programming, get it running. But there's no real enjoyment here. It's just a pale version of the more powerful machines the game was available on.
Yep.
It's a fighter bomber. It's not really, is it?
I get the impression sometimes at this point, like the Amiga's having a party, and C64 turns up and it's like, hey, party! And everyone's like, hi. Yeah, okay, yeah, all right, come in.
It's that thingy picture, innit, with Steve Buscemi. Hey, young guys, it's him. Turn up. Yeah, so the Amiga's like, bog off. It's just not good, is it? No. Technically, it's impressive for what the machine can do, but but this is all it can do.
Yeah.
So there we go. Fighter bomber. No. So here we go. Technically impressive, but no. So that's 3 games. It's better than Wild Streets, though.
Well, there's no denying that.
It's come second on the podium. The third on the podium is empty. Well, it's just a panther sat there wondering what the hell it's doing.
Just scratching itself.
Yeah. There we go. That's your first 3 games for this week. We're going to go away. We're going to take a quick break. We've got lots of music when we look at the albums and singles from March 1990. So please do stay with us. And we're back. Let's get into the singles. What was going on in music in March 1990? Well, the number 1 singles for the first 3 weeks. We've spoken about this before. It was Dub Be Good to Me by Binks International featuring Lindy Layton.
Absolutely. And Dub was good to her because it was in the chat for a while, wasn't it? So it obviously earned a bit of crust off that.
Depends, doesn't it? Don't know what, probably went to Norman Cook.
Well, it was his song, to be fair.
Yeah, she just came along and sang it.
Yeah, he sang on it, yeah.
After that, for the last week of the month, we had The Power by Snap.
I'm going to put that, as soon as you say The Power, it's going to go, I got the power! I'm going to put that in.
Yeah. There's an interest. I found, reading the wiki, there's an interesting story behind this. So I didn't know this was produced by a German Eurodance group.
Oh, I knew that.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Snap were a German Eurodance group. They don't, because obviously the guy, but written and produced by Michael Munzing and Luca Anzalotti. And it went through several renditions. The original version was released 3rd of January. contains samples from Let the Words Flow by Chill Rob G, Love's Gonna Get You by Jocelyn Brown, and King of the Beats by Mantronics. It was an early 1990 hit, but appearing on the dance singles chart again, none of the credited vocals were cleared, and Stu Fine, former owner of Wild Pitch Records, wanted to release the song in the United States. Rob G, who was signed to Wild Pitch, consented, initially thinking the deal could be lucrative for his career. Wild Pitch issued a stateside single video with his lyrics from Let the Words Flow. However, this version was credited under Power Jam and not Snap. Simultaneously, Arista Records wished to release their own edition in the US, but it was not legally possible for the label to simply reissue the original German single. It was decided to re-record the entire track with new lyrics by rapper Duron Butler, known as Turbo B.
Turbo B.
And additional vocals by Penny Ford. The samples were then all legally cleared, and the song was finally re-released under the new name Snap on 12th of March and 6th of April in the US, despite the fact that Jocelyn Brown had commenced legal action because of the unauthorized sampling of her vocals.
Crazy. It was the time of the sampler and nobody quite knew what to do about it.
Yeah.
The
new technology.
It's interesting. Yeah, totally that.
Yeah,
Crazy.
parallels. You could say parallels with sort of what's going on with AI and stuff today, isn't there?
Yeah, totally and utterly the same.
The new technology comes along and just nicks people's work, and people are like, you can't do that.
Yeah, and rightly so. Yeah, I mean, depends how you look at samples or not. I think if you've got little audio snippets and samples, is that different to actually stealing somebody's voice and the way they sing? Yeah. I think it is. I don't think it's right. Credit the people who've done the singing properly. They do now, of course, but back then it was a bit fair game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was the Wild West, wasn't it? But yeah, there you go.
But that song was everywhere.
Yes,
everywhere. I mean, it's even in Hudson Hawk, because the baddie woman in it singing it towards the end, she's going, "I got the power." She stood on that table singing it. It went everywhere.
It's still everywhere because it's the bloody theme tune to the Tesco adverts at the moment.
Those freaky adverts. It is, yeah.
So, this song has not gone away. 30 years later, it's still being used in adverts and stuff. They must have made a mint off this.
A classic is a classic is a classic. It is a good song. I mean, irrespective of its samplage, right, it's a good song. Snaps. And their follow-up single was also good, so it's good.
Yeah. Number one albums. First 2 weeks, he's not going away, Graham. Much as you'd like him to. Phil Collins is still, but seriously.
Honestly, that stupid album with his stupid face on it. No.
Looking for the egg. For the third week of the month, I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got by Sinead O'Connor.
Well, that's a good album, actually. I've listened to that off the back of when we talked about the single last time.
Obviously on the back of the single, isn't it?
Nothing compares to you, but there's some good, very intense tracks on some of them, but it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. And then for the final week, we had Changes Bowie by David Bowie, which was the compilation album by David Bowie, which remastered reissue series, replacing the deleted compilations Changes 1 Bowie and Changes 2 Bowie.
Yeah, the naming of these things is stupid, isn't it? Yeah. It's got it's the early Bowie stuff on it and things like that.
Yeah, it's all from Aladdin Sane and stuff like that.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the singles.
Bowie, yeah.
Good Bowie, yeah. 4th of March. In at number 12 is Blue Savannah by Erasure.
It's the one Erasure song I've never liked.
No, I don't. Interesting opening shot in this video, though.
Yeah.
Did you watch the video?
Yeah.
When it's sort of with the sort of hand in front of the camera, but it comes down from on high and then goes all in one shot into the. That's a brave cameraman on a crane.
Yeah. Dangling someone on a string, aren't they? Yeah. Without a doubt.
However they've done that, is sort of load the crane in and he sort of walked off or whatever. But,
just a weaker single, really, for them.
Yeah, he gets menaced by a blue hand, Andy Bell, while doing his Andy Bell dance.
He does, but it's just not a very good song.
No, not particularly. It's better than number 15, though, which was Madly in Love by Bros.
I thought Bros had come and gone by now, but they seem to be hanging around.
Yeah, well, they've tried to adopt a more dancey style here. Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. Really bad.
It's the beginning of the end for Bros, wasn't it? Because there was already a million clones out. We're going to see some later, and the clones send in the clones. The clones were taking over.
True. In at number 30 was Deliverance by The Mission.
That went higher in the chart than I anticipated it would have. That's pretty good.
Yeah, straight in at number 30. This is a massive tune. This is my the second single I've carved in sand after Butterfly on a Wheel. This is a really great goth rock song. And they seem to end the gigs. Well, they did when I went to see them anyway. They end the gigs with this song these days. It is my favourite Mission track. Not a few held by many Mission fans.
Really?
No. This is
what's their favourite?
I think most proper Mission fans. Mission fans like stuff off God's Own Medicine, the first album. That kind of the earlier jangly, jangly goth sound. Okay. So just a great rock song. Just a great goth rock song. It's just ace. Just love it. Love it.
Fair enough.
In at number 34, Hold Back the River by Wet, Wet, Wet.
Yeah, hold it back, because there's going to be one. There's going to be a middle-aged woman tsunami coming at them when they're on the stage with this, when they play this. Exactly, yeah.
I read what you've written here. You wrote that, and I was like, oh, I just had to paste the Jim Carrey gagging.
I did, yeah, because I put, when you think about their general fan base demographic, this song may have more meaning because it's called Hold Back the River by Wet, Wet, Wet. I mean, it says it all on the tin, really. You don't need a vivid imagination.
I never had thought of it that way before. So,
well, if you was one of their like backstage hands and all the knickers are flying up towards the stage, which they probably inevitably do. I imagine it's a bit like when people are testing spaghetti, because some of them are going to stick on the wall and some of them are going to stick and then slowly lower down. And like, that one was ready. That one there. That one's ready. It's the grossest thing I think I've ever said in this podcast. Thank you very much. See you later.
You just lost a quarter of our audience. Well done.
No, they're a bunch of free-thinking people. They love it.
Absolutely.
But they might not like that thought in their head.
They're probably flinging wet knickers at the wall right now.
To test them, yeah.
To test, yeah. See if they slide. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I just could have left it a test. You had to add the verbs in there.
I'm a writer. That's what I do.
No, I'm doing the Jim Carrey gip motion.
Oh, in at number 35. Oh, this goes well after the last one. The Deeper the Love.
Honestly.
By White Snake. This is a bad song. This isn't really good.
No, it isn't good. My first thought was that it sounds like a Spinal Tap song, and that's because they're almost Spinal Tap lyrics, aren't they?
I didn't listen to the lyrics, but
No, well, not so much the lyrics of the song, just the deeper the love. Because I think isn't there the lyrics to Big Bottom by Spinal Tap? The looser the waistband, the deeper the quicksand. I think is one of their lyrics.
It is, yeah.
Or so I have said, or something like that. But yeah, it's a terrible song, that White Snake. I think now it's just give up now. White Snake. You've been at this for 20 years at this point? Goodness me.
More and more out of time. The sounding more and more out of time.
Just a bit.
In at number 39 is Love and Anger by Kate Bush.
Good song by the old Bush, that?
Yeah. I don't remember this one at all, but I thought it was a good song. Voice in it is just remarkable. It's, you forget how good a singer she is. It's a bit more rocky than her normal stuff as well. A bit more tempo and a bit beat.
Diverse,
and then you watch the video and there's Dave Gilmour there on guitar.
Yeah, he just turned up to her house and she was like, oh, for God's sake, Gilmour's here. All right, Dave.
Better record a video. He always wants that.
Just nip down to the studio. It's at the bottom of the garden. I'll be there in about an hour.
Hey, Kate. Me guitar.
Yeah. Beep, 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 beep. Hello. Hey, Pete, can you come over? Yeah. Dave's here. Gilmour. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah, you better bring a couple of boxes of Frosties with you this time.
He does love his Frosties. He only likes cereal with pre-added sugar.
Exactly, yeah. He'd be here for weeks. He started playing his guitar. He's been playing one note for 3 days. We can't get rid of him.
He's down in the studio at the bottom just going, it's great. It's great. Calling himself, it's because call him Tony.
But yes, Kate Bush on the other hand, very good. Dave Gilmour's amazing guitarist. Don't get me wrong.
Amazing guitarist,
but he can't be stopped. And he also, by the way, he's got an amazing sense of humour, which is good because we're just mercilessly taking the mickey out of him for 2 minutes.
Absolutely,
But
allegedly.
Gilmour likes a laugh, don't you, Dave? I said Gilmour likes a laugh, don't you, Dave? Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
All right, I'll put the taser down. Okay.
And at number 43, Sweet Soul Sister by The Cult.
Cheesy, that, wasn't it?
It's full on stadium rock, in it, for the tiny vampires.
Yeah, which is odd because that must be a tiny stadium, no bigger than the size of amoebas.
It is. I did think though, the Sweet Soul Sister reminded me of Self-Esteem by Offspring.
Yeah, don't doubt that though. It sounded like a lot of other things. Certainly, one thing it didn't sound like was what I would traditionally think of as The Cult.
Well, obviously, Self-Esteem came later, didn't it? It was later. It was in the 90s.
Maybe that's Offspring could easily have done that. There's only so many chords.
It reminded me of it, the melody. Number 53 is Trust by Brother Beyond.
No,
just please give generously to the Low Polys.
Yeah, that's what they should have been called. Their band should have been called
the Low Polys.
The Low Polys, not Brother Beyond. No.
Yeah.
Awful.
Now
terrible thing.
Now this song, number 54 is Treat Me Like a Lady by 5 Star. Just pay all your money to Janet Jackson. This is so blatant a rip-off, even down to the dance moves. It's quite shocking.
Isn't it? It is. They've been heading that way for some time, but this is like blatant, so blatantly copied, even the outfits and everything. You're like, wow, okay.
I can't believe how much this just a knockoff of Rhythm Nation have tried to go here.
It totally is. I mean, okay, maybe there's some differences. I don't know what.
Yes, they had the golden arcs.
It's totally that. Their buns have definitely have no seeds, do they?
no seeds on this bun. In at 55 is the Mad Love EP by Lush.
Yeah, are you a Lush fan?
Not massively, but I remember this one, and I remember liking this. It's very Lush.
Make nice soaps, I found.
Yeah, well, I hate going in that shop. It just my nose just is assaulted by 1,000 smells.
They're good smells. It's because you're so used to your own noxious fumes odour that you don't. The nice smells just knock you out.
I can take nice smells, but it's just when there's 1,000 of them.
Well, that's just they don't go in a soap shop.
Yeah, I know, but I don't like it.
What's the most annoying about Lush is the people in Lush.
Yeah.
Not every Lush member of the staff is like that, but they are kind of
overly friendly.
They're a little bit.
But this song is quite good. It had Deluxe on it, which was the main track.
Yeah, it's not bad. I've never got into Lush, but it was all right for them, from what I remember of them. Yeah.
In at number 71 is Dirty Mind by Shakespeare's Sister.
Oh.
I wasn't sure what to make of this. We're just waiting for Stay, aren't we? Just play Stay.
The thing with this is that their novelty is wearing off. The fact that she's going to start every song emitting a shriek like a frigging whale. Like she just sings in whale song for the first 3 notes. I don't know. This song was awful. It has to be said. It's a really bad song. And the video,
it's not good.
They look uncomfortable again. It's like the musical direction that they started off with and this stuff is completely at odds with each other. And it looks like you sort of read it in their faces like they've just... they've been told what to do, that they're not very happy about it. There was a goth aesthetic they were going for, and it feels like they're losing all of that.
Yeah, she may have chosen this hairstyle on her own, but I didn't like the ringlets, the curls on Siobhan.
I don't think she chose that.
Didn't look right.
My feeling is that there's a record company going, look, we need sales here, so we've invested this amount of money in it. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it's them, but what do I know? What do we know?
Well, it's number 71. I don't think it was very high, that one. However, what probably will go quite high is at number 97. I can't believe this entered at number 97. And it is classic Black Velvet by Alana Miles.
They don't use the word classic for this song.
Everyone knows this. It has become a classic tune. Whether you like it or not is irrespective. It is a classically known, well-liked tune. I've heard it every single karaoke I've ever been at.
It's because it's a basic 4/4 slow blues.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a blues song at the end of the day, and there's nothing original about it. Yeah, exactly. Mississippi in the middle of a dry spell. Nah, 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 nah.
Yeah, exactly. It is what it is.
Not very good. Not very good. One It Wonder won it because it was only really the one it she did in the UK anyway.
But probably, put her children through college and made her a mint of money.
Yeah. She got a mileage out of it, shall we say?
She certainly did. Hey! 11th of March and at number 4. That sounds good to me. Not to me, it doesn't. By Jive Bunny and the Master Mixers.
If only that rabbit was dead, but it isn't yet, is it? Should be Jive Bunny got myxomatosis. I'd be happy with that.
I would as well. I would be very happy. At number 11 is I'll Be Loving You Forever by New Kids on the Block.
Oh, this song.
It's falsetto arse.
It is. That's their alter ego, yeah. It's just horrible. I found I snapshotted a picture from the video where their hair is just going up.
It's like they're suffering from reverse gravity.
It is.
Please give generously.
On a couple of them, it's like this. The one on the first one left. I don't know their names. That's probably Bobby or Billy or
Donnie
something.
Wahlberg, I think, on the left.
So Donnie's got a fishtail going on, and then some kind of inexplicable hairdo. The guy next to him, his face is too low, and he's got 2 head bumps where his horns have been cut off. The guy in the middle looks like he's just trod on a pin. The guy next to him, his face is too big for his hair. And the guy on the far right on there, or I should have the far right of the image, not on the far right, but on the far right of the image. He looks like the kind of guy you went to school with that nobody remembers his name when you talk about him.
Yeah. It's one for every girl. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is, but who would want old bloody double horn there, the second one in? He's wearing a red roll neck. I mean, that's a crime.
Well, he's got to do something to take attention away from his double horn.
He
wearing a red roll neck? Is that what you noticed?
That's true. Yeah, true. Yeah, very strange that. Yeah, very strange. He has got head horns. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he peels back the skin when it's nighttime, and they're like light bulbs, so you can see in the dark.
They're his headlamps. Literally, his headlamps. Is that one of the first people in time to ever been born with headlights on his actual head?
Absolutely. Yeah. He just
sort of
peels back the skin.
Yeah, he's like an anglerfish. He can light his own way.
That's how he catches his prey. at night.
Sorry for whoever you are, one of the new kids on the block.
Yeah, but
second of 5, or whatever your name was.
Well, you can always see him peering in your house at night because his headlamps give him away.
Exactly. Oh, I've got my lamps out. Oh, sorry.
Go away.
Yeah, I'm really blind. They're really bright.
Bog off, lumpy head. Anyway, in at number 18 is Strawberry Fields Forever by Candy Flip. This is a rubbish song. It's a rubbish version of this song, sorry. Dreadful. It's where Manchester went all wrong.
I mean, I was never a fan of the original off Sgt. Pepper's, isn't it, by the Beatles. I was never a big fan of Strawberry Fields, the original song. I don't get me wrong, it's good and it's really weird for that time, but this version's so awful and that breakbeat, never again. No.
What is better though for Manchester is it's Oldham, I guess. This is How It Feels by In Spiral Carpets at number 22. It's a great track, Sis. I've always liked this song. It's the only one of their songs I actually do really like. Like the lyrics on this story about a woman having an affair, and the original lyrics were changed. I found out the original lyrics, the second verse, they were originally that the guy who she's having an affair with kills himself, and they find his body. This is a line something like they found his body under a train or something.
That's trippy.
But they changed it. They changed it for radio because obviously it was referencing suicide. To he left a note and buggered off. Essentially, the story. That's to change the kind of story. But the original version was the mum. What's wrong with mum? She can't say. We can't see. Putting it down to another bad day. And it's it's a really really good song. And I like the video as well. And I've never quite known why, because it's just them up on a hill, but it's shot by Anton Corbijn. And I went, there you go. Okay. Did all the Depeche Mode stuff, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's an eye for a nice shot and sort of just framing them in a way that's interesting. And at number 28 is Don't You Love Me by the 49ers. The house piano is strong in this.
It's cheesy clubhouse, the kind of thing that our mate used to buy on CD single a lot, and then come and torture me with them. Very plink plonky. This was outside of Gary, and bless him, he never went in for this kind of charty dance stuff. He liked a bit more undergroundy stuff. But no, and the dancing on it made when I clicked on the video, the dancing on this really made me laugh because they have just had green ants poured down their pants. It is the very definition of ants in your pants make your belly button dance. This is what they were doing.
Don't you love me? No, just put ants in your pants.
But along with there was loads of acts like the 49ers that came around at this time. There was them, there was Clock, there was loads of them. We'll start to see a whole raft of them emerging. A lot of them pouring out of the clubs of Europe. Not that they were in the clubs in Europe, but they, a few people went on holiday, heard the song, and it started to drift across from the European transom into our transoms, and this is where it's starting to find its way in.
It is. And then number 29 is A Handful of Promises by Big Fun. How do we make these idiots worse? Well, we do it by putting the woo, yeah, sample really fast and high pitched in this bag of shite. Awful video, awful song, dancing. It's so bad. This song is so bad. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Yeah, it is. I look at it from a different way. There are obviously 3 parts of a cloning process. And so I understand that, as a clone, you're not going to be as good as the original. There's going to be little bits that are wrong. And each one of those is a clone of a clone. So like photocopies.
Oh, yeah, they get worse.
With each photocopy, they get worse. So from left to right, you've got the original or semi-original. Jury's out on that. The one in the middle, he's not got everything there. And then the one at the end, God help him. He is the worst photocopy of the lot. And the dancing is terrible. The act is terrible. The song is terrible. They are terrible. James Brown would probably, if you found him, if he was still alive, exactly. It'd kill him. Yeah, with that's James Brown Kung Fu you were doing there. That's pretty good.
I know.
That's Brown Fu. But but for clones, you know what? They're doing all right. They're doing all right. It's as good as clones can be. Give them a break. They're clones. They're not even the original people. At some point, something horrible is going to happen to them. It always does. Always does.
Yeah, look at Dolly.
Well, you'll find one of them trapped under a paving slab. You won't, and nobody will know how we got there. It'll just happen because it's clone life. Clone life. I
get up in the morning. I get up in the morning, look in the mirror, realise it's not a mirror. It's just my clone. Clone life.
Clone life. Yeah. I was trapped under my duvet for 3 hours, and then I realised I could just push it off. Clone life. Oh, the clonies.
So many clonies.
Clonies, yeah. Even George Clooney, yeah. And he's the ultimate clone. We
all do the same thing.
Through their clone life. Yep, clone life. I think we've invented a new song.
We have. Like the tune too. Number 30 is "A Gentleman's Excuse Me" by Fish.
Could you just clarify what a gentleman's excuse me is?
I don't know. When I was looking for this and I saw that, I just wrote "ew" because I don't know what a gentleman's excuse me just feels like a.
I think it is something surreptitious, isn't it? I think there is a little bit of a gentleman's excuse me. I thought it was it was a Tom Hank. I thought that was a posh name for a Tom Hank.
Oh, something, yeah, watery-eyed one. But I don't know. I read it and it's something to do with saying no. It looks like saying no to someone on the dance floor or something. I don't know. Boring song.
You know what? You can't erase all of his grubby dirt lines by putting loads of filters over the lenses and smoothing everything off with smooth filters. That video was so smooth. I mean, it even by VHS standards, it was over smoothed. And VHS had a way of making things smooth, didn't it, when it was transferred to other formats? So.
It really did. Yeah, the Vaseline was no, that's
no anything you should need to say around Fish.
Especially when you've just used the phrase "a gentleman's excuse me."
Gentleman's excuse me, Fish and heavy Vaseline. That's 0898 number back in the day. That.
Yeah. In at number 40 is "Read My Lips." "Enough is Enough" by Jimmy Somerville. Odd beginning. This I thought it was the start of "Poison" by Alice Cooper for about 2 seconds.
Yeah. Actually, that's got that vibe, hasn't it? That initial note. Yeah. I was waiting for the da-da-da-da-da-da. I was waiting for that, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, because then there was fish and sea greens and plankton from the sea. It starts off with close-up giddy bopping.
It really was full of that, wasn't it?
Yep.
That guy has his cornflakes, doesn't he? Goodness me. I mean,
absolutely.
Wow.
He protects them from Dave Gilmore.
I mean, can you imagine if you gave that guy, you took him to one side, what was his name? Jimmy Somerville. No, not sugar, just give him like 10 cans of Red Bull. He just launched like a rocket and you're, wow.
I'll be dancing for hours.
Can you imagine? Be like, right, I need to get this tin of paint shaken. Hold that a minute, will you please, Jimmy? Yeah, drink this. Okay, sure, I will. Wow, that's brilliant. You mixed me paint. Great. Thanks, Jimmy. Jimmy Somerville's paint mixing service. Hey, money's money, right?
Just one can of Red Bull. Gets your paint mixed or your money back.
It says insert can on the back of his trousers. You'd be like,
do you want some sugar?
Can I get my money back? Ring pull. I don't think I want to.
Absolutely.
I think my paint can be unmixed. See you later.
But this was a serious song.
It was.
It discussed the need for increased funding to fight HIV and AIDS. AIDS, not age. AIDS.
HIV and AIDS and age. All three.
And age, yeah. You can get that from the video. This is quite preachy. It's not a great song, though.
No, I had a whiff of Stock Aitken and Waterman about it as well, which I suspect it probably was.
Yeah, probably. At number 49 is "Rock the Nation" featuring Layla K by Robin Raz.
Yeah. You remember them, though? Do you remember? I remember them more. No. Forgot to Get. Do you not remember the Robin Raz got to get me and again and again and got to get?
This is more yours and Brown Sauce's wheelhouse.
I thought you'd that's the one I remember. I didn't remember this one, but I always remember "Got to Get." Got to get. It was a good track, that, but it's.
I might recognise it if we come across it, but don't ring a bell.
From Sweden, aren't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, there was a lot of that around at this time.
Yeah, 18th of March, number 12, "The Power" by Snap, which we've already talked about.
The power.
Snap.
Yeah, that.
In at number 28 is "Chime" by Orbital.
Yeah, everyone remembers bloody Chime. Ding 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 ding. Everyone remembers bloody Chime.
I didn't recognise the name, but as soon as I put the video on and listened, I was like, "Oh, it's that one."
It's that one.
Yeah. That one.
I remember Brown Sauce liking that a lot. He was well into the Orbital, wasn't he?
Yeah. There was one track of theirs I did later on, which I really liked.
The Box.
The Box, yeah. Yeah, that was great. That was really good. Number 33 is "All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You" by Heart.
A song so gushing, it'll leave your CD player wet and you won't know why. Exactly. You take it out and you go, oh, it's some kind of secreted resin on it.
It's secreted from what?
From what? Exactly. You won't know. You'll never find out.
It's a seedy CD.
It is. Just schmaltzy rock gloop, isn't it? All I wanted, one night of love is all we knew. Blech.
Yeah,
it's gipping your sandwiches, that.
Yeah. And at number 34 is "Mama Gave Birth to the Soul Children" by Queen Latifah and De La Soul.
They must have to build wider record sleeves for these names now, because they're getting well long with all the extras involved. Yeah. Bloody, that's crazy, isn't it? And it's not my cup of tea. Brown Sauce territory all the way. This one, he was probably well into Queen Latifah. Maybe not. I might have got him all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's De La Soul and Queen Latifah rapping over the top, and then the De La Soul's chorus, and I was like,
and he likes that.
I bet Gary loved this.
He likes that kind of thing. He does.
No one would like the next one, though, because it's number 36 is Another Day in Paradise by Jamtronic.
So why would you release this when his version's still out there? What kind of sadist are you?
I don't know. So this is a cover of the Phil Collins Another Day in Paradise, the song multimillionaire writing about living as a homeless person. Yeah, right.
And now someone else is making money off the multimillionaire's song about homeless people by releasing a crap version that'll no doubt chart and making money off it. So there's now more people not making money off homeless people's plight. Yeah. Crazy victim shamers. Get out of there.
Yes.
Get out.
And as you've rightly said, I bet Phil Collins did lay an egg when he heard this.
Not a good egg.
Not a good egg.
No.
No, a man laying an egg is never a good egg.
Not the way Phil Collins did it.
Absolutely not. He did it with a drum beat.
Yeah, he'd have to pry out the egg with one of his drumsticks, and sometimes they came back, sometimes they didn't. That's all we'll say.
No, absolutely. He was just left with a brush. Number 38 is Too Late to Say Goodbye by Richard Marx.
It's honestly, his hair's out of control now.
It's Meatball Central, this video.
It is. I'm pretty sure that's just a complete head of hair wearing a face mask. I don't think there's any actual face on it.
It's the thing. It's thing, isn't it? It's Cousin It. No, Cousin It. Or
it's Cousin It. It totally is.
With just someone's put a mask on it.
Now, I need to ask this, all right, because it's something that's been puzzling me for some time. Why is it between the 80s to the 90s, the bigger the hair gets, the bigger they have to backlight it? It's like, stop backlighting massive hair. It makes it look crazy.
Well, it's because they've got to get some light through to light the face.
But they can't. That hair's a Matmos. They're never going to get anything through that. I mean, look at it. That's a full meatball, solid and meaty.
Absolutely. Lovecraft wrote about things like that.
And all of his songs. There's a theme with Richard Marx songs. Too Late to Say Goodbye. Sorry I Murdered You. I'll See You Next Week, Maybe. There's loads of his songs that got a real dark nature to them.
Yeah, well, he's a hazard.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I Swear I Left It by the River. And that was his song, lyric, wasn't it?
Yeah,
he's a dark
Hazard.
man.
Yeah,
he's a dark man. Exactly, yeah. That's what happens. He's not human. He's meatball now. And who knows what they're like? You can't trust him.
He's gone to hunt out the legendary white meatball.
Exactly.
Which is true.
He's a meatball, and the meatballs are all alike.
Can't trust him. It's time we got McCarthy on their asses. Got Huam, House of Un-American Meatball Activity.
Yeah, get out of here, you meatballs.
Was it true that you associated with meatballs? Have you changed your name from Campbell's?
I was in a band with Richard Marx. Lock him away for a while.
Blacklist him.
No gravy.
It makes them stronger. In at number 40,
God, random.
In at number 40 is Your Love Takes Me Higher by The Beloved. Chroma Key Horror. Yes. Another Chroma Key Horror. Boring song. His dancing did make me laugh, though. It's like they stuck him on a treadmill and he's getting his steps in.
He's not dancing. He's just walking. He's a greasy, smug-looking flop, isn't he? That guy. He's such a smug git.
You hated him the last time.
I do. Just because he's got that greasy kind of smug face. The MCP needs to put him in the games and never let him out again.
True.
Come on, MCP. Come on, do your thing.
He needs to be derezzed.
Yes, put him in the games. You're going in the games, but I don't want to. Yes, you would. Yes, you do. It's the worst impression of Tron ever, but there you go.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, it'll do. Yeah, I was just kind of doing more of a on-stage version.
Yeah, absolutely.
One-man show version.
Ken Loach's Tron.
Now that would be worth seeing, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it just?
Number 46 is Kiss This Thing Goodbye. Again, 1990. Keep adding 1992. I don't know why. I don't know if the re-releases, but it's by Delamitri, of course. Upbeat, high fringe, strange new genre of music. Yeah. But this song is a song for 1,000 British rom-coms.
It really was funny. Yeah. High fringe, upbeat, high fringe. Kiss This Thing Goodbye is his fringe. Because when you... So... he's unhappy that Hornboy, Headlight Man, came along earlier on and has out-fringed him. Goodness me, what a combination. We've got meatballs versus headlamps, and now we've got this. I don't know, it's just this, again, it's another smug one, isn't it? The smell of smug is heavy now in the room, I feel, from these. Absolutely, yeah. Very smug indeed. Number 52 is The Rhythm of Life by Oleta Adams. Well, do you know what? I had a couple of shirts in the wash, took them out the tumble dryer, and honestly, they were straight.
There's no need to iron. Just play this. So smooth.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? This can decrinkle anything.
Absolutely. I bought a bag of crinkle crisps. They were flat. I was not happy. I like my crinkle crisps.
Well, I heard this in the distance the other day, actually, this song, and I was like, what? Where is that coming from? That's the Rhythm of Life by Oleta Adams. And I realised they were playing it really at loud volumes at the M180, directly at it to try and flatten some of the crinkles out. And it was working too. It's the flattest it's ever been.
It is.
Amazing.
That's good to know. I drive along it a lot. And at number 79 is Dirty Deeds by Joan Jett.
Just why?
Sounded suspiciously like T-Rex's 20th Century Boy.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar.
But this is a cover of the original AC/DC version, which was Dirty Deeds done dirt cheap. Dirty Deeds done dirt dun.
Yeah. So I like the AC/DC version, but whenever I hear it now, I think of The Simpsons and Flanders' kindly deeds done for free. Stupid Flanders.
Stupid sexy Flanders. Yeah. This song was, it's not bad. It's all right.
AC/DC are all right in that respect. It's not my favourite one of theirs. It's all right, though.
No, but the Joan Jett version, I mean. It's okay.
Yeah, the Joe Jett one was all right. It was all right, but just, it's a good song, averagely good by another artist.
Number 84 is The Ship Song by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Good song, that, actually.
It is. It's very emotional. There are no ships in the video, though, which are just him and a piano.
I think it's more emotional ships, I think.
Relationships.
Very good. Yes, those. Yeah, I think it is.
I never got into the Cave of Nick, as it's called, Nick Cave. I've tried, but he was never on. He's never game.
You could get the bats out of there. I've never been into spelunking. So Nick Cave, Nick Spelunker, which is probably his original name, and they were like, "Don't call yourself that." I quite like Nick Cave, to be fair. I've come to like Nick Cave over time. I didn't like it at the time. I've come to more of a understanding. And this particular song actually was quite good. You have to be in the right mood for it, though. Can't just put Nick Cave on for a laugh, can you?
No.
That's Gary's favourite trick. Is like, go around to his house, come around, you're all having a laugh. He puts the Nick Cave on. Everyone's just slowly getting the razor blades out the back pocket, going, right, when are we all doing it? We all drinking the Kool-Aid now?
In at number 88, though, is I Like It Hot by Wolfsbane.
Stupid. This stupid thing.
Set the rock cliches to very, very high. It's just sub Iron Maiden rubbish.
It is. I mean, didn't he end up singing for Iron Maiden?
Quite possibly, yeah. I think.
What was his name? Was it Blaze Bailey?
Blaze Bailey, is he?
Yeah, I'm pretty. Is it Blaze Bailey?
I know Blaze Bailey did sing for Maiden. I don't know if that's.
I'm pretty sure because it sounds like he was the kind of guy that would be in Wolfsbane, wouldn't it? And Blaze Bailey from Wolfsbane. That goes together.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah.
Crap song though.
Very.
25th of March, number 22 is Don't Miss the Party Line by Bizniz.
No.
Not for me, this.
No. Heard it in a club on holiday is a phrase that has a lot to answer for.
Yep.
And that is responsible for a significant proportion of the crap we get in the charts pretty much all the time from here on in.
Yep. Yeah,
Package holidays had got to the point when they were becoming more affordable. The club tour holidays of Ibiza and that were becoming very big at this point. That whole thing was starting, the Balearic thing was starting to happen, and we were about to go and ruin the Spanish coast as a nation collectively.
Yay.
And the Greek coast, we were going to go and ruin it. So they get names like Shagaloof and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, true.
So we were going to go and ruin them, and their revenge on us was to allow these singles to be released in the UK so we could all drown in them. And here we are.
And number 24 is Ghetto Heaven by Family Stand. I can't believe it's not Soul or Soul.
Yes. But this is more soul, not equal soul, really.
It does, yes. I did like that response, yeah. Coding jokes. Love them.
It is operand humour for the win, or not.
Zor. It leaves me Zor.
Leaves me so Zor from laughing, yeah. That's it. I roll around, yeah. Very good. Okay, enough now. We're going to assembly jokes.
No.
There is no LDA for how I'm feeling.
No, don't do it. Number 27 is Better World by the Rebel MC. Sample-tastic.
The Rebel MC songs in the key of Bom Bom Biddy, isn't it? Bom Bom Biddly, Bom Biddly. So the songs are just somebody going, right, this song needs to go Bom Bom Biddly, Bom Biddle Biddly. All right. Bum Bum Biddle Dum Bum Bum Biddle Diddle Bum. There we go, done it. It's some Bom Bom Biddly keyboard.
Yes. In number 28 is Pictures of You by The Cure.
I thought this came out way before this. I don't know why.
No, it's off Disintegration, fourth single. The reason you probably do think that is because it sounds like Good Cure. So that sort of early 80s, mid 80s Cure when they were,
really did.
It's that kind of sound. It has a bit more of that sound. It's a very good song, this. No sign of stabby trumpet, just jangly goth guitars, beats. His vocals are really good in this. This kind of suits his vocals. They're always the best when we're like this. We've had a lot of Cure songs like that. One, and the stabby trumpet period. And we were like, oh, what is this? What are they doing? But then they had Disintegration and everything was right in the world. Makes you think of the King Kong movie. Is it in that?
No, not. It's King of Kong. I meant to put King of Kong as in the King of Kong, like the game one, the documentary. About the guy that's doing the Donkey Kong.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because it's used to great effect in that documentary, which you should go and watch, by the way.
I've watched it. I don't remember it being in there. So
yeah, it's in there. Yeah, watch it again. It's good. I watch it quite regularly because I find it fascinating. It's the one with
Billy Mitchell and what's his face, the guy who's trying to beat him, isn't he?
Yeah. Steve Wiebe. Yeah,
Steve Wiebe. Yeah. It's good. It is a good gaming documentary. That is.
It's brilliant. I think it's about the best one that's ever made. I think.
Number 30 is Kingston Town by UB40.
No.
That's a large no.
No.
You've written there.
Kingston. No.
No. In at number 31 is Escapade by Janet Jackson.
What happened?
Don't know. Was Rhythm Nation an anomaly? It's just pop fluff, isn't it? Horrible.
Yeah, exactly. Because now she's been told what to do.
Yeah,
so.
no more of your rebellious nature.
Yeah. Just, output stuff like this, please. And so she is, which is terrible. And she disappeared after this completely, didn't she? So pretty much.
I don't know. It's a shame. There was a good direction there. Well, at least we got 5-star carrying the flag.
Well, where is Janet Jackson when I come to think of it? Where the hell is she?
Probably in her house watching Gogglebox.
No, but what I mean is, right, that you see all the other Jacksons appeared on all sorts of things. Randy Jackson and a few other Jacksons appeared here and there. Where the hell's Janet Jackson gone? She's vanished off the face of the earth.
Don't know.
You don't hear about her. You don't see anything about her. Nothing.
Maybe she didn't want to be known about anything. Maybe she just retired with her millions.
I mean, maybe, but it's unusual, don't you think? She just disappeared off the face of the earth. It's like she's living on another planet.
Maybe she is. Maybe that's where they went. What You Waiting For at number 35 by the Jungle Brothers.
Brown sauce territory, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Again.
On many of his little yellow, brown mixtapes, it was on there. I don't doubt. Yeah.
Probably. Always on Maxell tapes.
Yep. With a yellow stripe.
In at number 36 is I Remember You by Skid Row. I didn't remember this from the time, and I wouldn't have done it. It wasn't in my wheelhouse at the time, but I have actually a huge soft spot for this song now. It's got a great chorus. His voice is very good guitar solo. So I really like this song.
Yeah, underrated band, actually. By me, I'd probably, not fair to say they were quite well rated by most others, but I just felt they were a bit late to the show. I still think that. They were just a few years out where they needed to be. They feel like a band that was just into the scene just too late to be really where they should have been. Yeah.
And at number 50 is I'd Rather Go Blind by Sydney Youngblood.
You didn't like this song then?
No, the refrain of I was just. It's like, oh, you will go blind. I don't know what he's doing, but I didn't like this. No, it'll drive you mad, that bit of refrain.
Well, my thinking with it is, his blood is probably well old now. I don't think he can really call himself Sydney Youngblood.
Sydney Old Blood.
Sydney Old Blood now. His blood's old. So, I'm leaving it there.
Maybe. In at number 62 is Shake by Andrew Ridgeley.
No, don't. Just don't, Mr. Ridgeley, don't.
This one really good, was it? Don't start your song with acoustic guitar that just brings George Michael to mind. Jink, jink, jink.
Exactly.
Jink,
what are you doing? And maybe it's a little nod and a homage. He's known for having a very good sense of humour, George Michael, and so is Andrew Ridgeley. So I suspect that's probably a bit of a fun thing between them both, a bit of an in-joke.
Maybe.
The song is rubbish, it has to be said. But I think the problem here is that Andrew Ridgeley was always in George Michael's shadow. And I suspect he's probably a good artist in his own right. He just was never going to get anywhere, was he? Because George Michael just consumed everything about it and all the air in the room had gone. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And finally, at number 65 is Forever by Kiss.
Nah.
Big song, recorded in studio video. It's a big Kiss ballad.
Yeah, I'll file it in my Kiss collection. There we go. Filed it. There we are.
Well done.
Yeah.
Let's get into the albums and let's get this bit done. It's number 4th of March. In at number 5 is Purgatory, Maiden. Japan.
Made in Japan.
By Iron Maiden.
Just block released a load of albums or something, or tracks or something, haven't they?
Yeah, something. I don't know what they've done, but
12 inches or something.
More weirdness. In at number 8 is The House of Love by House of Love, not to be confused with their debut album, House of Love by The House of Love. Just call it something different. In fact, this was actually titled. They referred to it as Fontana, after the record label was on, or the Butterfly album after the Trevor Key's sleeve art.
Oh, it would confuse anyone, would it? Imagine taking it back. I got this album, I got the wrong one. Which one did you want? I wanted House of Love by House of Love, and this one is House of Love by House of Love.
What?
Okay. Bob, we've got another one.
Just call it. You've got the entirety of the English language at your disposal.
Yeah.
Number 24 is Move Your Skin, and Why Not?
Don't remember much about And Why Not.
No. They were a British pop trio from Birmingham, West Midlands, England.
Okay.
Their only album, Move Your Skin, was produced by Alan Shacklock, who sounds like he should be in the Monster Club.
It's a Shacklock. He's half shack and half lock.
It's a Shacklock. He hums at you and your eyebrows fall off.
He's part shaddy, part maddie.
It's a Shacklock.
So it's a Shacklock. Yeah, exactly what he is, yeah.
Where are my eyebrows?
It's on the lesser, sort of dangerous end of the monster hierarchy.
Yeah, but he likes to do it. He likes to do it to people going on a first date.
I mean, if you had a Shadmock whistling at a pigeon and a Shacklock making his eyebrows fall off, out of the two, the pigeon death is probably going to be of the more horrific, I would say.
True.
Potentially.
Probably. He's a lesser monster.
The bloody Shacklocks. We need to extend the tree now, don't we? We need to add the Shacklocks in somehow. I don't know what a shack is, but we'll figure it out.
Number 28 is Blue Sky Mining by Midnight Oil. The seventh
big band in Australia, right?
Yeah,
So,
the seventh studio album.
Wow.
This was the band's first studio album with bassist and backing vocals Bones Hillman.
Good name.
That's a great name. Bones Hillman.
Hey.
We like that, but Midnight Oil, yes.
Yeah, I only know one song by them. That's not taking anything away from their, Australian greatness. We didn't get a lot of Midnight Oil songs over here, I have to say.
No, we did not. 11th of March, and at number 2 is Missing, Presumed Having a Good Time by the Notting Hill Billies.
That sounds very pretentious, that.
It's a sort of country rock project formed by British singer-songwriter Mark Knopfler in 1986. With basically people that he knew from the bands he's been in, and it's a bit of a travelling Wilburys, I think.
Yeah, kind of the travelling Dilburys. You can't call ourselves that. Call ourselves the travelling Hillbillies then. Oh, I suppose we'll have that then. Notting Hillbillies it is then.
Notting Hillbillies. Number 3 is Run to the Hills, Number of the Beast, Iron Maiden. Just stop now, whatever this is.
They're good songs. Run to the Hills is a great Maiden song, though.
And Number I'm not knocking the songs. It's just these every week there's a new
release of them. Yeah, it's a bit cheesy.
Number 8 is Soul Provider by Michael Bolton.
Clever play on words, isn't it, for old Bolly?
It is. This is his 6th studio album.
Incredible.
It sold 12.5 million copies worldwide. And for the single version of Georgia on My Mind, CBS edited out Michael Brecker's saxophone solo and replaced it with one by Kenny G.
It's a bit harsh.
That's a bit mean, isn't it? Harsh.
Yeah. Kenny G was erasing over other people. What are you doing?
Yeah. Poor old Michael Brecker.
Yeah.
I don't know who he is.
I hope he got his revenge and he served it cold.
Absolutely. Set a shacklock on him.
Kenny G's eyebrows never been the same since.
No, they're not his anymore. He had to find another pair on the floor. In at number 10 is The Stranglers. And at number 10 is 10, by The Stranglers.
Yes, that's it. That's actually quite a good album, that, if you like that kind of thing.
Yeah, their 10th studio album.
Yeah, not quite the Stranglers that they used to be at this point. They're obviously, they're being strangled for quite a while, aren't they, for the 10th album, so there's only so much air in your lungs, isn't there?
Well, 10 peaked at 15 and spent 4 weeks in the album chart. It's like a maths conundrum.
And time travel became possible right now.
Yeah, it's like, and number 16 is The Essential Pavarotti by Luciano Pavarotti.
The era of Pavarotti has begun.
Yeah. Actually, this is before the World Cup 90, isn't it? So, but I think...
It's where it started to become very popular, this stuff, at this time, didn't it?
Yeah. It was used in the 1990 World Cup
totally
title
was,
sequence, but this is obviously before then, so I can't remember why everyone picked up on Ness and Dorma for a while, didn't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I can't remember why, but there was a big sudden resurgence of Pavarotti and stuff like that, wasn't there? Just at this time, it just became. But I think people were ready for a bit of massive opera, weren't they? There was just you look at the charts and you can see that there's a cascade of utter creative abandonment. They're all the same. Everything's starting to sound the same. So this sounds very unique and, analog, I suppose. It's a bit of an analog thing, I think, going on there, where people are like, for God's sake, give me something that's actually created by a human being and their own timbre.
Yeah,
So.
maybe. Well, if you asked for that, you could have had this. Number 19, Live on Broadway by Barry Manilow.
Gary Manilow. No, it's Barry Manilow, Gary. Oh, not again. Tried this before.
This album was recorded at the Chicago Theatre in Chicago, Illinois, on December 2nd, December 3rd, 1989.
A famous concert when he just showed up. He just started singing, and everyone was like, all right, sing. All right, okay. Well, we can't get him off the stage. He's already up there. All right. So.
Once he gets going, Manilow cannot be stopped.
He can't. Yeah, exactly. You can't live without him, whatever his song was. I don't like Barry Manilow particularly. I don't think he's ever really sang an original song, has he?
Copacabana, what that is?
No, not originally. No.
Is it not?
No. He just turned up at the Copacabana and started singing it. What could they do? That's what he does. It's his way.
The Manilow.
Manilow, don't let him in. Once he starts, he has to record. That's it.
Absolutely. He can sing both Manny Low and Manny High. In at number 21 is Backstreet Symphony by Thunder.
I don't like Thunder and I never will.
No, and that's an unpleasant euphemism of an album title as well, isn't it?
It actually is totally rubbish. Yeah, not good.
No. Number 69 is Just Say Ozzy by Ozzy Osbourne. It's another live album.
If you like Ozzy at this point, this was kind of, I don't know, this is Shot in the Dark, Ozzy, isn't it? I think around
quite
that
possibly.
time.
The track I found was Miracle Man from the live Moscow Peace Musical Festival.
Which isn't bad.
Sweaty video though. He's so sweaty.
Yeah, I mean, it's Ozzy, isn't it? So it is. If you like the vibe, you like it. I mean,
yeah.
I've been listening to their podcast and he is very funny on that. He's obviously still retained a really good sense of humour, which is nice to know.
Yeah. On the 18th of March, in at number 2 was Changes Bowie by David Bowie.
Yeah.
As above,
Turn and face
so
the
below.
change, yeah. Or is it turd and face the change? You'd probably turn, I'd have thought.
Probably. And at number 7 is Flight of Icarus and the Trooper, Iron Maiden. How many of these? I think they've just split an album. It must be a best of album or something that they've
It is. I'm pretty sure it's that 10 records set.
It's been more than 10. It's been loads now.
Pretty sure it's that. But these are just like big long tracks, aren't they? I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know. In at number 19 is Manners and Physique. His fourth solo studio album by Adam Ant.
Yeah. Do you remember the other three?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't remember this one.
Because they weren't very good.
No.
Nope.
It had that single room at the top on this, which we listened to the other week. In at number 33 is The Caution Horses by Cowboy Junkies.
No, not my thing at all.
Canadian alt country band.
Yeah, I don't like that kind of anything country, alt country. It's really not my scene at all.
No. Well, this is the first album following their 1988 breakthrough, The Trinity Session. This features a more conventional, polished sound than the earlier album's spear-haunting country blues. As a consequence, the album received average reviews from music critics who said that the band had sacrificed their distinctive style.
Means nothing to me. I didn't even listen to the first lot.
Ardy crap. And at number 74 is Sound Clash by the Renegade Soundwave.
Yeah.
Imagine Gary like this.
Yeah, I seem to remember going on saying something about it.
But it's co-produced by the band and Flood. So Flood's got his finger in a lot of things at the moment. He did that Nitzer Ebb album and he did Violator, didn't he?
He did, yeah. In their praise. He's very popular at the moment.
Yeah. Which, speaking of Violator, 25th of March, in at number 2 is Violator by Depeche Mode.
Good album, that.
Great album. It should have been a number one. Should have been a number one this because of Phil Collins. But he wasn't number one by this point. It was Changes
but
by
he had
Bowie.
Been, but he had been number one, hadn't he? He'd been
So we can
floating about.
We just blame him for it.
Yeah. Exactly. He won't go away. So, make room for other people,
Yeah,
Phil.
absolutely. This is their 7th studio album, tracked Personal Jesus, Enjoy the Silence, Policy of Truth, World in My Eyes, Clean. It's just a wall-to-wall great album.
Such a great album. And Personal Jesus is an amazing, and Enjoy the Silence, both amazing. Fun enough, I was listening to this album only yesterday. So good.
It is so good.
Damn good.
Yeah, very much so.
Woo. Great album.
In at number 5 is Only Yesterday by the Carpenters.
Yeah, Carpenters, a good greatest hits compilation. All the ones you'll know and all the ones you don't.
Yes.
You'll remember most of the ones you know.
Yeah. And she was a very good drummer, wasn't she?
Incredible. Yeah, I watched a drum solo by Karen Carpenter the other day. Amazing. Actually, not just like what you might, proper like Buddy Rich territory, that good.
Yeah.
Crazy good.
In at number 11 is 2 Minutes from Midnight, Aces High, Iron Maiden. Just stop.
Yeah, enough of them now. Yeah.
Stop
Put
it.
them on one record and release it, you cheapskates.
Yeah. And finally, in at number 15 is Manic Nirvana by Robert Plant.
Yeah. This post-Zeppelin, yeah.
Yeah, 5th studio single album, whatever. This album cover is dreadful.
Yeah, it ain't good, is it?
No, just go have a look. Just type it in and have a look at Manic Nirvana, Robert Plant. Look at the album cover. You can see it for yourself. It ain't good.
I mean, album cover, which isn't good, is it? It's a meme waiting to happen, really, nowadays, that would be. He has an incredible voice, Robert Plant. I mean, I really like Robert Plant, especially in Zeppelin.
Yeah.
But also, when he went solo, though, it's like something took over him and it wasn't always good.
No, and I hate the title Manic Nirvana.
Totally. That's what I mean.
It stinks of I've gone and sampled the world and gone out and
That's exactly that. Yeah, it's just it's something took over him, and it's just his rock roots. But maybe he's always a bit like that.
He's just got lots of money. He can do what he wants.
Yeah, it's his own label.
He's bored. And he clearly wants to go and do his West Side musical. Saucy Jack. This is what basically has happened. He wants to dig up these projects.
Well, to be fair to him, he's not doing bad, is he? For someone that needs to be put in a little pot and watered now and again. He's doing all right. Doing all right. That's quite hard to work around with that.
Would it be different if he was called Bob Plant?
That's probably what people call it, Bobby Plant.
Bobby Plant.
All right, Bob. Bobby Planter. All right, Bob.
Bobby and a planter.
Yes. I think, he is a plant, isn't he? But, it's Robert Plant. What can you say? Bobby Plant.
There we go. A lot of music there. So some good, some awful, some whatever. We've still got 4 games to get through. 4 whole games to get through in this episode. So we're going to go take a quick break. We'll come back and we will work our way through those titles. See you in a bit. And we're back. Let's get into our last 4 games for this week. And the first one up, Graham, is Super Wonderboy. Super Wonderboy. Or to give it its correct title, which it should have, is Wonderboy in Monsterland. Or to be even more correct and give it its original title, is Wonderboy, Monsterland.
Makes sense now.
Yeah, so this was a conversion of the 1987 arcade game, originally developed by Westone Bit Entertainment and released by Sega in the arcades. So this was £9.99. This is a direct sequel to the first Wonderboy game. Aside from that, and starring the titular Wonderboy, it's got very little in common with that first game. Very little. In Japan, Game Machine listed Wonderboy in Monsterland, or Wonderboy Monsterland, on their October 1st, 1987 issue as being the 3rd most successful table arcade unit of the fortnight.
Bizarre. They've changed.
I know. What's going on? Anyway, the C64 version was produced by Software Studios. The conversion here was by Images Design. The coding was by James Smart. The graphics by Andrew Pang. And the musician was James Smart, who, interestingly, is not the same James Smart who coded it.
Bizarre.
I know. What are the chances? I'm only kidding. I think. I don't know. It's probably the same person, but it might not be. Not safe to assume.
There's no guarantees in this world. He could be a clone.
Would explain a lot, but there you go. Anyway, James Smart, which is the clone though, which was the original. Not even they know anymore. There's a little backstory, and it goes a little like this. Wonderboy is back, this time as an adventurous adolescent who must slay the ferocious fire-breathing mecha dragon before peace can return to Wonderland. Tom Tom takes on the most malicious monsters ever known. Evil anacondas, vicious vampire bats, mad mudmen, and screaming skeletons, to name just a few. Collect treasures along the way to strengthen and protect yourself, revival potions to perk up life levels, whirlwinds for long-range battles, and winged boots to fly. There lies ahead the greatest challenge, a nightmarish adventure of the force of good against evil, as once more the peace-loving people of Wonderland turn to Super Wonderboy to free them from the grasp of Mecha and his murderous monsters. The future of Wonderland is now in your hands.
Ooh la la.
Now, if that doesn't get you going, I do not know what will. So just be clear, this game takes place 11 years after the first one. 11.
Okay.
So there's no loading screen, and it doesn't have the best of title screens, but there was a little bit that I liked. It has Wonderboy in Monsterland taking up most of the blue screen, and I actually quite like what they've done with the Monsterland part, kind of curved across, and it's got the castle in the background of the letters, which I thought was quite a nice touch. Sort of castle that you see in the sort of interstitial parts of the game. But I quite like that. There's not much else going there. It's blue screen, lots of text. There's no music. Nothing really to note here by the credits. So, not a lot to say about this. Just press the fire and get into the game. And so the first thing to note here, it's quite nice. We have a nice, strong, sunny blue background with clouds and the like. So often in these conversions, we've lost the sky to blackness. We've said it loads of times. Why don't you have a blue sky? Not here. Nice blue sky like that. Second thing to note is that Wonderboy has been out in the sun for a while because he's got a great tan.
He does.
He's got an amazing tan, a great, great tan, along with his famous swish of golden hair. He's little Wonderboy is. So we start off with nothing to go but right. But just as a hint, go left and jump into the tree for a secret. You'll find one. And we find a sign that welcomes us to Monsterland before coming across a door in a tree stump and an impassable wall. Seems an odd way to start the game. The controls here are pretty simple. It's a platform after all. So with right and left for walking, up for jump, and spacebar for opening the doors that we will find along the way. Down it enables us to throw or use the currently held object when we find some objects or buy some objects later in the game. So that's the basic. It's basic, really basic controls. Fire allows us to stab when we get a sword. That's pretty much it. Okay, really simple. The screen is split, bottom 3/4 being the play area, and the top quarter shows the UI. This shows our remaining energy on the left in the form of 5 hearts, the amount of gold we have collected, and the round we are presently on, or the level, I guess, what type of sword we are holding, then some empty boxes that will fill up as we obtain objects, and finally an hourglass representing the timer for getting through the level. Now, I think that's what they all are. There's very little in the instructions. You just kind of have to assume that's what it's for. Okay, it doesn't tell you any of this in the instructions. Entering the door by pressing space lets us meet the mayor of the city, which we were about to enter, who gives us a sword and a revival potion and bids us good luck on our quest to kill the dragon. Leaving the tree, a floating platform appears, and we can jump on this to ascend the wall. And the sort of dead end in front of us. A stab of the fire button now pokes out our sword, and as we progress, we can take out stationary and moving snakes in this level. The red ones are stationary, the green ones will move back and forth. We will also come across another door in a tree as we're moving along, and here a barman will offer us drinks. Buying one will gain some information. We'll get a hint on how to proceed. It's at this point you realise this isn't a standard platformer, but it's some kind of a role-playing game. It's a role-playing game that happens to be set in a 2D platformer. Kind of an odd choice of game here. Kind of an odd thing, this, for an arcade game. This feels weird.
It's a bit.
So considering this did come from the arcade, it feels like sort of a home console sequel, but it's not. It is an arcade game. Progressing onwards, we enter another door and come face to face with the first boss. It's a large, wraith-like being. But a few stabs of the sword, jump up and just stab him. It's not too hard. It does him in, and we get the key to the next level, a load of money as well. So collect the money first, the coins that drop down first before you get the key, because the key will instantly take you back out. Grab the money first. And we can proceed onwards, and kill another snake, and there's like a cave entrance, or sort of an entrance in the sort of tree, and that we can't go into there until we get the key, so we have to kill the boss, that's why. So after this is an intrusive, but it's not too annoying. There's a multi-load. So this game is a multi-load. Each level does load in separately. And the next level takes us into the city, where we are set by small green creatures in the arcade. These are mushrooms. They're weird in the 664 version, but they drop cash and bonus points when poked with the sharp end of your sword. There are more doors here, and for real cash, you can buy better boots. You can buy a shield. And you're going to need the shield. I'd advise you to spend your money on the shield, because you're going to need it to ward off the arrows at the end of the enemy at the end of the level. Kill them. Progression takes us into the depths of a cave, where we are beset by bats who drop from the top of the ceiling, from the top of the roof of the cave, sorry. And if you kill them, they will drop love hearts, and you can collect those love hearts to gain health back. We find a secret door where we are given a note to give to someone when we meet them in a town along the way. We fight another optional boss, and if we kill them, they're quite tricky at this stage. They give us a broadsword to do more damage. Handy. And this is kind of how the game progresses. It's a platformer, yes. So it plays like a platformer that you run and you jump. But the combat feels different, that we are fighting with swords and bombs and the like. So it doesn't feel like Mario. It doesn't feel like your standard Guyana Mario style platformer. This feels a bit different. And it doesn't feel like something like New Zealand Story either. It just feels odd. It feels like something else. And what it felt like is something that's a bit similar to this, a bit familiar. Another small elf-like character who moved around the world and took out enemies and bosses with sword and bombs. I think that this was heavily influenced by Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
That had come out in January of 87. This came out in the summer of 87. This, because obviously the original Zelda is a top-down flick screen game where you kind of, it's all that. Okay. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, it had some top-down sections like the first Zelda game, but for the most part, it was a 2D scrolling side-on action RPG game where you walked along and stabbed people, talked to people, went in taverns and things like that. Very similar. So I think that's where they've looked and they've taken inspiration from for this. I think, and so that's what this is. It feels, and that's weird for an arcade game to sort of take an inspiration from there, but it's similar. It's too similar for me. And 6 or 7 months later, there would have been images of Zelda 2 coming out. I think they've taken inspiration from that and changed up Wonderboy and sort of included these elements to sort of widen it out to make it feel a bit different. And it does feel a lot different to the usual stuff, the usual arcade games we were getting at the time.
Yeah.
I think There are all the levels from the arcade game here. It's quite hard. There's a lot of secrets too. So it's quite a big game. This will keep you going for quite a while. And, everything that's there is here. The visuals are a bit of a mixed bag. I like the bosses. The kind of bigger versions, the bigger versions of the arcade ones, they're quite small in the arcade. But here they're a bit bigger, but they're still quite detailed and they sort of float around quite nicely. I thought it was pretty decent. They've got some nice animations and I think there's a good consistent style to everything. Everything sort of fits together. Wonderboy himself, he's okay. Some of the backdrops are better than others. The earlier ones are pretty good. So in the town, they're simple. Don't get me wrong. They're simple, but they work. The trees and stuff, they just work. They've got a nice style to them. They're just basic, but they work. In the context of what this game is, everything sort of fits and suits the game itself. Some of the others, as you get a bit later on, are a bit too busy. They hurt the eyes a bit. Like some kind of what we said, similar to New Zealand Story. So this feels visually sort of akin to something like New Zealand Story, I felt. But it's nice. I thought it was all right. I thought the characters that you speak to behind the doors are pretty decent. They're big and you can talk to them and they've got a bit of character and they look all right. It's obvious what you can buy and everything's fine. And the music itself, it's fine. It's a decent approximation of the arcade tunes. I didn't mind them. They're different tunes for each level. They are versions of the arcade, and I think they've managed to cram in. I know it's multi-load, pretty much most of the arcade game here, from what I can tell. I played the arcade game, and it's level for level, almost identical. So they've done a good job of actually fitting everything in here, and it plays pretty much the same as well. The one big thing though that I didn't like was the scrolling. It's fine when moving in one direction. So if you jump up straight up, then it'll scroll upwards, and it'll be fine. So that'll move. If you go left or right, it's fine. It struggles and becomes pretty choppy when having to scroll in diagonals, though. So when you're jumping when you're jumping forward or anything like that, and you're moving the screen up and to the right, it kind of doesn't know. It's kind of it gets a bit confused as to whether it's going up or across, and kind of does up and then across, and it gets a bit jerky. And that gets a bit quite off-putting. But that aside from that. That small, you kind of get used to it after a while, but it does kind of get in the way of some, when you're trying to jump, because obviously you've got to jump from platform to platform moving along. And there's a bit, I think, on the start of the fourth level where there's platforms moving up and down, and you're trying to jump onto floating platforms that are moving, and the scrolling just kind of irks your eyes a bit and kind of makes it trickier than it should be. I wish the whole thing would just scroll smoothly in all directions, but it is what it is. I had never played this before. I played the original Wonderboy. I'd never played Wonderboy in Monsterland. I was just expecting something like a standard sequel to Wonderboy, a box standard platformer, left to right, do some stuff, and that'll be that. And when I first started playing it, I thought that's what it was, and I was like, "What is this? What's going on? I'm stuck." And then when I read the instructions, I pressed space to enter doors and talk to someone and got the sword, and I was like, "This is not what I was expecting." It's not a standard sort of sequel that at all. Like I said, it's far more inspired by the Zelda games. And it stands out as something different on the machine. There's not many of these type of things that we've played. I don't think, there's not much in this mold that we've actually played on the C64 as we're kind of going along. It kind of reminded me, a little bit of Usagi Yojimbo in that kind of sort of quest moving sort of through. You've got a quest, you've got a thing to do, you're going along, you're getting money, you're buying equipment, you're doing stuff, you're talking to people. It's that kind of thing. It's a decent conversion, this as well. Plays to the C64 strengths by the juddery diagonal scrolling, small sprites moving around, simple, plenty of character on them. And it, this feels like it was built for this machine. It doesn't feel like out of scope of what this can do. And I think they've done a decent job. I like this. Had a good time with it. I didn't complete it though. But with the rejuvenation potion that you get at the beginning, there's lots of continues, there's hearts being dropped all over the place, places to find and refill your health. It's not that difficult a game. Some of the later levels do get tricky. The platforming, I think, is made trickier, like I said, because of the scrolling problem. But that's another thing that I did like about it. This feels that the rising difficulties they got about right. It's not tough to start off with. It just gets tougher as you progress, and that's how a game should be. It feels well balanced. It feels nicely done. This is a solid conversion of an unusual and good arcade game. It got 68% in the magazine. It's $9.99, but there's a lot of game here. There's a lot of game to go at. And you've got options for what you want to buy, and whether you want to buy stuff, you can challenge yourself in different ways. I think 68 is harsh for this. I think this is easily the same as New Zealand Story, which got a sizzler and 90% not too long back. I think this is equally as good. I guess Activision weren't flashing the ocean money at them though, were they? So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. I thought this was really pretty good. I wouldn't have given it a sizzler, but then again, I wouldn't have given New Zealand Story a sizzler. I think we said that at the time. but I do think that this should have been up in the 80s because I think this is a pretty decent conversion of an interesting game. What did you think?
I think you liked it more than I did.
Probably.
It was a bit odd. Graphics were okay, Mario-esque, I thought, of that sort of type, but smaller. Scrolling was annoying because it was jerky, and I don't like jerky scrolling.
Yeah.
Sprites were okay, but over tiny, which meant the vibe was fine. It's just a bit sparse, and you were a bit too far back from everything, which made it feel like everything was a little bit emptier than it should have been. It was stupidly easy, I thought. Playability was all right. The levels are very short, so there's quite a bit of loading going on there. My instincts told me it was all right. I mean, inoffensive, and it's an interesting take on this kind of idea as well, that it was a little bit more than just hopping and jumping on things, and it's a bit more than Mario was offering. And I don't mean that in the sense that it's like Mario. I just meant that its cuteness is it's got that vibe about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But the music was good, production was good. It was all good. It's all okay. But was it anything special? I don't think it was. I think it was a bit dreary overall. Very colourful though, but a little bit dreary. So looked okay, sounded okay. Just a bit bitty here and there. The little bits of polish it needed weren't there for me, which kept it back from the better scores. 68 might be a bit on the harsh side, but I wouldn't have gone much higher. I'd have been in the 70s maybe, but because its graphics are quite nicely done, they're just a bit too far away. But it is a complete version of something, and that's always a good thing. And they put all the things in there that we've always said should be in there are in it. They're just perhaps a little bit devoid of atmosphere and a little bit clunky around the edges, and maybe just a little bit underfinished. Maybe just an extra 20 minutes in the oven. But it was an certainly interesting take on that thing, and nothing I'd ever seen before. So quite good to see the C64 still gunning for things like this. It's certainly more fun than some of the other things we've had to play. So not bad. Just not as good as perhaps a little bit of extra polish might have made it be.
I can. Yeah, I think it's that scrolling, isn't it? That it's the bugbear.
I think that's a shame. I think it's the bit when I played it, I was like, what a shame, because if that was smooth, this game would have been really, really good.
Yeah,
its frame rate is lacking, and that's a problem because these games need to have the smoothness of the scrolling because so many others have.
Yeah,
so
yeah, you're right. I agree. There we go. That's what's that? That's what's its proper title? Wonderboy, Monsterland, or Super Wonderboy as it came out over here. There you go. Let's move on to our next one. And the next one, it's over to you, Graham, to tell us all about what it's like to enjoy a pro mountain bike simulator.
Pro mountain biking. Wow. The sport that no one ever thought possible. No one thought it was possible. So mountain bikes were pretty new around this time, I would imagine. They were kind of the thing, weren't they? They were. I don't remember talking about mountain bikes till well into the later 90s. So this is pretty early on in the... What do I know? This is published by Alternative Software. The producer is MC Lothorian. As we all know, we can crack the jokes there, Hobbits in the house and all that. Coder was Mike Mannion, and the graphics are Martin Holland, and the musician is Paul Tong, Pete Tong's brother, Paul Tong. I've got the cover here, and it does have an explanation of what on earth this is all about. What on earth is this about? It's a very short blurb because the game is essentially a mountain bike game. But it says, and I just want to read this to you because is this what you remember? Pro mountain bike simulator. You have control of a mountain bike and your objective is to race over a series of hazardous obstacles with the intention of finishing with the fastest time. That's what we call a race. Your opponent can be either a friend or the computer. Skillful use of the gears will help you over the mountains and speed over the ramps. Mountains?
Ramps?
You must also get off and carry your bike over certain obstacles, e.g. potholes and wooden logs. It says 1 or 2 players must race over a series of obstacles with the objective of finishing first or finishing with the fastest time. The fastest time being the winner, just in case you didn't know what that meant. Okay. If a one-player game is selected, then the top biker is computer-controlled and you control the bottom biker. Now, did that throw you when you played this?
Say that again. What?
So, if a one-player game is selected, then the top biker is computer-controlled and you control the bottom biker.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because I was for ages looking at going, no, it's not doing what I want. Then I realised I wasn't even looking at the one I was controlling.
You think you'd be at the top.
Yeah, because you are in every other version of these types of thing. All of them.
Yep.
And the obstacles you find in the game, there's logs, holes, rocks, swamps, ramps, and mountains. Humps. All right. Okay, this game, goodness me. So this is mountain bike simulation. In the theme of Kickstart, this is a kind of Kickstart variant, and we've played loads of games like this as well. BMX Simulator, although that's way better than this. Kickstart, as I say, although that's way better than this. There's loads of them. This is to Kickstart what those crappy Assault Course games were to the
Combat School.
Combat School, yeah. So this is 19 to Combat School. Exactly.
Yeah.
The game starts with a large title screen and some icons across the top in kind of little tiny icons, tiny with a little arrow pointing at you with the control with your joy pole.
Yeah.
The left to right, these are a night and day selector, a level editor, come back to that. Start the game, joystick or keys, 1 or 2 player. Simple, that. Simple. Simpleton. When the game starts, the blockiest man on earth will walk on and start the race off with a shooting a starting pistol right in your ear, and then you're off. As I said, the game is split into 2 halves. You control the player on the bottom half. That will throw you. Both of these are views of an assault course from the side view, with, I guess you'd call high res sprites. I'll come back to that in a moment. But anyway, the screen's split into 2. You've got to race across or walk across a series of obstacles from left to right. Some of these you've got to walk, like I say, over. Some avoid. Some make you jump. You've got to get to the finish. Yay. It's like a crap mixed resolution Kickstart, this, and not very good at that. Like I said, so firstly, in spite of Mr. Blocky with the start pistol, you're a high-res overlay sprite, which doesn't look too bad, I suppose, but it's A, small, and B, on a very 4-color medium-res trials track. Now, that's split into 2 views. So there's a view at the top, your opponent's at the bottom on the same track, and in the middle there's kind of a UI, which has got a kind of weird mountain view on it in kind of purple. It's very strange, which indicates the time, the gear that you're in, and the speed you're going. Okay, gives you that information at the very least for both players. There's some nice shading on the background, I suppose. Considering it's 4 colours, it doesn't look that bad. It's the usual greens and browns with the blue sky. But I noticed that weirdly, the sky clouds are green. I know there's only 4 colours, but there's a compromise that you might reach. Don't make green clouds. No, just choose one of your colours to be white and use that for little highlights. They've chose to highlight this in light green. Weird. It's a weird thing to do, that. So I suppose, and I don't know, it doesn't look that bad, I suppose, in the shading of it, I guess. But the controls with the joystick, well, I mean, you sort of, this up moves the bike upwards, down moves the bike downwards, left is slow it down, right is speed it up. And then when you've got the fire button pressed, if you do left and fire, it decreases the gears, and right and fire obviously increases your gears. And then if you do left, right quickly, you can sort of waggle the joystick if you get stuck or you've got to make him walk when waggle. So this is a mixture of a waggler and a controller. Now, it's just not very exciting on any game where you have to get off anything and walk, I don't think.
No.
Kind of defeats the purpose of making a game sound exciting by calling it Pro Mountain Bike Simulator if half of the race is you walking by holding your bike. And maybe that's what they do in real races, I get it, but it's not very exciting. The camera has this kind of neat trick in this game, which is quite interesting. It follows the action of you along as you go along the track, but it does zoom in into the action. So it zooms in slightly on the hills and things like that, which is a nice effect-ish. It's a bit unnecessary. It doesn't add a lot of value to it. It's supposed to indicate when you're going up a mountain. They're not mountains. Don't big this pudding up. They're not mountains. They're bumps. But it does do that, which is make it a little bit different from the Kickstarters of this world. But the problem is, even with that, it doesn't feel very exciting because your opponents are really clumsy, really, really rubbish. So your opponent plays in one player. They're so easy to beat. I mean, I'm not really good at these kind of games at all, but it wasn't hard to do this. Principally because most of the game you can waggle and walk quicker than he can cycle because he's always falling off. Like a clown, your opponent. So as you ride and walk along, these obstacles that I've mentioned will come along and they'll catch you and they'll either slow you down or knock you off your bike, worst case scenario. It usually occurs when you're well outside of the object, though, I noticed. So the background sprite detection is really erratic and not very precise in this, which means you can go across the top of a rocky outcrop and you'll think you're in the clear because you're way over it. But in actuality, it'll knock you off your bike. You think, well, how did that happen? And other times you'll be able to go straight past. It's all one long track, which is kind of the key issue with this game, really. It's one long track, one note, not very exciting. There's some game music, meanders through the game as well, perfunctory sound effects that don't add a lot to it, really. The whole game feels pretty dreary. And also Kickstart kind of did this thing ages ago and better. I don't know, at best it's a novelty addition to this kind of game. But really, I mean, if you're going to make a game and try and advance it, getting off the very thing that you're meant to be on and walking with it seems counterproductive to me. No, I don't know. It just seems like it's not very exciting anyway. And then to make it even more exciting, you actually get off your bike and walk. Feels like you're being told off by an old-fashioned policeman on his beat when you were riding your bike on the pavement. Get off. Get off. You've got lights on your bike either. So I don't know.
I've got them on my forehead.
I get the camera thing was quite nice. And there's a course editor in there as well where you can make your own courses for the novelty value, which is actually quite an easy-to-use editor if you want to do that kind of thing. But I don't know. Is that the way you add value to this? It just doesn't feel like a very exciting game. There's nothing, the races aren't exciting. Nothing's exciting. It's all very pedestrian. And ironically, it is actually pedestrian. So, I don't know. $2.99, I suppose, is the only saving grace for this. Maybe you'll get something interesting out of making an editor and playing it with your mates, 2-player. I don't know. I only played it 1-player. But it's not doing anything new or exciting. And it's not even a new or exciting price. Kickstart kind of did the budget bike thing. And it did it ages ago and for less.
Yep.
So, and it's not often we say that about a budget game. There's a better budget game. You've been out budgeted and some time ago. And even Kickstart 2 was better than this, I think. And that wasn't, that had its issues as well.
Yeah,
but it's better than
Kickstart
this.
2 is the best of the lot. Kickstart 2 is amazing.
Yeah. So, but like I said, this is meant to be on that genus, but it's missing the mark and all the fun that goes with that. And yes, they've put some colour in the graphics, but just silly errors in this. A bike that's high res with overlay makes it very difficult to see on medium res backgrounds because the colours are so obtuse. They blend into each other because they've used 4 colours, one of which is green, so you end up with green skies. Like I said, it's all a bit of a mishmash. I didn't think much to it, so no, not for me. This, I'll go back to playing Kickstart if I really want to play anything like this because it's way better than this. What did you think?
Yeah, no. Adding 3D to Kickstart 1 and 2 doesn't make it something better. It's not like, we've made it 3. It's Kickstart 3D. No. What is this? Why is it here? I don't understand. It's such a blatant rip-off and offers nothing new to these games apart from that 3D element where you can sort of move in and out of the screen. But who wants to do that? It doesn't matter.
Not necessary.
I don't know. This only has one course as well. There's 20 odd in Kickstart 2.
Yep. So one note.
Yeah.
One note game.
I mean, there's a course designer. There's a course designer in Kickstart 2.
Yeah.
But it's not up to me. It isn't up to me to add variety to your game just because you couldn't be bothered to.
Nope.
That's not my job. As you said, the visuals are quite nice. The green clouds are weird. They're a kind of mix of resolutions, though, and kind of like. But what kind of action biking game is you getting off to walk over around obstacles? I don't understand. Why? I don't understand this. It has even less of a claim to the word simulator than some of the Codemasters titles we've seen. I don't get it.
It does.
Just go and play Kickstart 2. Forget about this game for your own good. This is no mountain bike simulator. Rather than Pro. You got 76% as well.
No, I want to give it that.
What are they smoking at this point? Ironically, your Commodore gave this 5%.
Yeah, that figures. That's probably more the reality of it.
They said it's one of the worst budget titles I've ever seen.
Won't go that far, but it's not that far.
No.
But
it's probably in the 30s because there's just nothing to it. And it's boring.
And easy as well.
Mountain biking, when you're actually biking over rugged terrain and stuff like that, is not boring. It's interesting and life-threatening. This is boring. No mountain bike simulator. Let's move along. Let's move along quickly and get out of this. Walking with your bike.
Yeah.
Just can't be doing with that rubbish. Let's move along. To our penultimate game for this week. It's another budget one. This is Neutralizer. Neutralizer. So for £3 of your money, you could enjoy the heady delights of Neutralizer, another game that scored 68%, just like Wonderboy did, I think. That score again. We don't know how to score it. I just give it 2/3. We don't know. Anyway, this game comes courtesy of E&J Software.
Okay.
God knows who they are. But it was programmed by John Williams. Now, we've seen him before. He did Night Games 1 and 2 and Oink.
Okay.
And he'll also go on to do the conversion of Shadow Dancer. So hopefully that'll get the painful memories of Wild Streets out of my head when we play a proper version. And now here he is with Neutralizer. I wonder if he's the J in E&J Software.
Could be.
Maybe. There is a story here. I'm just going to open that up. It's complicated, but here's the story for Neutralizer. It was never going to be an easy job being the commander of the Nebulax trilogy, which contains 3 hostile planets that provide an abundance of minerals for the Federation battleships. The 3 planets have different environments. There's Glaciax, the cold planet. At low altitude, your temperature will reduce. Moving higher will restore your life support systems to normal conditions. The Solarix, the thermal planet. The surface of this planet is hot. And at low altitude, your temperature will rise. And then there's Terrax, the Enigma planet. This planet has an unusual atmosphere. Its surface is hot, but its upper limit is cold. So care is needed to balance the opposing temperature variations. Things have got a lot harder now due to alien starships placing radiation pods on each planet's surface and various creatures to protect them. Each of the pods have started producing radiation, and when they reach a critical level, then the planets will be destroyed. So with your jetpack and laser, you must fly over the planet's surfaces and destroy the pods. Once all the pods are destroyed on a planet, you move to the next one with the highest radiation level at any time. That's the story. Here you go. That's Neutralizer.
Neutralizer.
Neutralize the electroscan. The game loads. We get a title screen. This uses a similar style of visuals to what we saw in Oink, a kind of chunky bas relief style. We saw that in Oink. We also have the UI on the title screen as well, taking up the top and bottom of the screen. And it's again in that similar chunky style. Not a fan of UIs on title screens. I always feel it should just be in game, but we've got it here anyway. If you press fire, it takes us to a pre-game menu where we can alter various attributes of the game. We can alter the ability, so that's the difficulty level. And there's 5 difficulty levels for this game that go from duffer to novice to normal to expert and finally master. We can change the gravity from low to normal, from low to normal to high, and we can change the inertia from low to medium to high. Once you're satisfied with your options, you can press fire and start the game. So as already noted, the UI takes up both the top and bottom of the screen. At the top of the screen, we have the 3 planets represented in little squares. On either side of the squares are 2 arrows. These slowly go up as the radiation levels on the planets rise. The blue one on the left is Glaciax, the red one in the middle is Solarix, and the green one on the right is Terrax. Should the radiation on the planets reach critical mass, then it is game over for you. The bottom UI has a box with the label pods on it. This links to the planets, and it's the number of pods left to destroy on each of them. There's also an arrow on either side of these numbers, and one of them will be flashing to tell you the direction to go to the nearest pod, kind of like what we saw in Hawkeye. Next to this are your score and lives remaining. These are represented by 5 hearts. And above this is a thermometer gauge, and I'll explain the thermometer gauge in a moment. So the game itself is a bi-directional blaster in the mold of Defender, but more like Fantasy Zone or Retrograde, I guess. You are a person in a spacesuit, or maybe even Drop Zone. You're a person in a spacesuit, and you're situated in the middle of the screen because the actual play area is the middle of the screen between the 2 UI parts. You can move up and down and left and right, move you in that direction, a la Drop Zone, really. So imagine Drop Zone, but more colourful. Fire is for shooting, and you can hold it down to constantly shoot, so that's kind of handy. You don't have to keep tapping it. Various enemies of odd design will come on from the left and right, and these need to be shot or avoided because your task is to take out the pods that are on the floor at various intervals along the level, and they're spitting out radiation. As you shoot the pods, the number in the pods displayed in the UI goes down, and if you take them all out, you're transported to the next planet along with the next planet along that has the highest presently the highest radiation level. So it's not linear. You might get transported to either of them. You can also transport yourself to the planet with the highest radiation at any time if it's not the one you're presently on by pressing the space bar. And on the higher difficulty levels, you'll need to go between planets to take out the pods and lower the radiation on them bit by bit, because if you stay on one planet, the other planets will actually, the radiation will go up too fast. So you need to sort of jump around from planet to planet. Otherwise, they'll be destroyed. So you need to keep an eye on those radiation levels at all times. The way your health works is to do with a thermometer gauge. So as noted in the instructions, the floor of Glaciax and Solarix will either lower, Glaciax will lower or raise the temperature respectively. If the gauge empties to the left, so if it goes to the left and it empties out, that means it gets very cold, or it fills up to the right, which means it gets really hot, then you explode and you lose a life. What you need to do is keep to the center or the top of the screen on these 2 levels, and that will keep your temperature moderate in the middle. Okay. You only head down to the floor when you can see a pod to destroy it. As soon as you head down, your temperature starts to rise or lower. Shoot the pod, go back up, and it'll go back to the middle. You kind of have to balance this. So that's quite cool. That's quite a nice way to actually sort of balance your sort of health. It's kind of your health, but it's not quite health. It's quite an interesting mechanic that. On Terrax, though, you need to stay in the center of the screen. As flying at the top will raise the temperature, and the floor will lower it. You can use that to your advantage. You can go down, and if it lowers your temperature, then whip up to the top. It'll raise it quicker. So you can, you're balancing out, but you want to stay really in the middle. So remember that you're at this point, you are, the game, you are fighting both gravity, it's constantly pulling you down, and inertia. So you'll slow down and speed up faster, or, that depending on what you set them at, whilst trying to see off enemies and stay in the safe zone and find the pods. And you can see how this game gets tough. There's a lot to sort of take into consideration with your controls, trying to shoot stuff, trying to find those pods, trying to shoot them, staying in, all that. It's alleviated by the options at the beginning. If you turn gravity and inertia down to low, it makes it much easier to survive. Because it kind of lowers the difficulty. Obviously, you can you can change the difficulty in different ways. You can go up to a harder planet, the harder sort of difficulty level, but set the inertia and stuff down to low, so it's easier to control. Or you can go to the easy ones, but put it high inertia and high gravity, so it's constantly pulling you down, and you're fighting the controls more. It's up to you how you want to play it. The difficulty level itself, the ability level, affects both the number of pods and the density of enemies. So Duffer, which is the easiest level, has you only having to take out 4 pods on each planet, and there are barely any enemies to contend with. Whilst Master has you taking out 8 pods per planet and being beset on all sides by enemies constantly. So, and the other thing with that, because there's 8 pods on the planet, they're all spitting out radiation, which means the radiation goes up quicker, which is why you need to flip back and forth between planets to sort of knock them out bit by bit. If the enemies hit you, they lower your temperature by some margin. So just a couple of hits will be enough to take out one of your lives. You can get your temperature back to normal by moving yourself into a non-hazardous zone and avoiding enemies. So taking a hit, it's not game over. You just need to get into a safe space and get your temperature back to normal. But while you're doing that, the radiation levels are raising on the planet. So it's a balance. You don't want to be hit because it lowers you down, and then, which isn't too bad on the hot one, because if you get hit, I think it lowers it still. I don't know. It's a balance. You've just got to fight your way through, but it's actually quite an interesting mechanic, and it works quite well. The visuals for this are chunky. They're chunky in that kind of way we saw in Oink, but they're well drawn, and everything moves fast and smoothly. Technically, this is pretty good. The backgrounds themselves on all levels have a nice 2-layer parallax effect and are distinct for each of the 3 levels. They're suitably snowy visuals on Glaciax, hot and like Arizona-like, sort of mountainous, what they call those kind of messes in Arizona, those kind of things on Solarix, and it's like dark and mysterious and sort of a bit weird on Terrax. The sounds are decent. There's a good blasting sound and explosions, usual bleeps and bloops when you pick up stuff and you warp between planets. And there's a nice effect when you do warp between planets, where your player sort of de-reses and then sort of go to the next planet and sort of out, and that's quite cool. But I would have liked some music somewhere. I think they could have done with a bit of music just to give a bit of atmosphere to the game. It's mostly blasting noise, and you are shooting a hell of a lot, so it's you will hear that. So that's the game, really. You just fly around, you try and knock out these pods along the floor, you balance your temperature out. There's no upgrades, there's no power-ups or anything like that. You are just a man with a jetpack and a laser, and you are shooting stuff, and you're trying to save these planets. Should you complete it, you get through, you start again on the next harder difficulty level. It kind of loops around, and you go through and working your way through that. For £3, I thought this was a decent blaster for £3. There may only be 3 levels. The action can be a bit repetitive. It is what it is. There's not much more to it than what I've described. But the addition of difficulty levels and multiple ways to alter them with different combos of inertia and gravity, along with quite slick presentation, the title screen, you get kind of the name of the game comes on in big bas relief graphics. When you press play, you get this kind of static effect that sort of takes them out. And like I said, the bits transitioning between levels is all very smooth, and the controls, it's very fast and snappy. I thought this made this a decent value for money blaster. It's a budget kind of retrograde drop zone, because it's in that kind of sense where it's not a Defender clone, because you're not picking up saving people on the bottom of the planet, you're blowing up stuff, so it's on that retrograde type style. But it's just the blasting and not without the power-ups. £3, it's £3 worth of retrograde, I guess. It's what you get. But it is slickly put together, as you would expect from the man who made Oink and Night games. This is the guy who knows how to program the C64. He's done it before. Does it deserve more than 68%? Maybe. For a budget blaster, I'd say it does. I think there's enough here to justify a slightly higher mark. I think this would easily please on a rainy Sunday afternoon. Sticking everything up to Master and High certainly provides some lasting blasting challenge. I thought this was quite a solid game. There's an interesting mechanic to your health, and once I got my head around it, I enjoyed a bit of blasting action with this. Thought it was a bit of fun. All right, £3, good game. What did you think?
Yeah, not much more to add. Well coded, of course. Very nice to look at. Good scroll and shoot up. Nice array of enemies and lots of floating and wobbling, which is always nice in these kind of things. Really nice use of shading and really nice use of colour overall, actually, which meant that you've got a lot of vibrancy, which is nice. Plus, it controlled well. I know it was floaty and all of those things, but it still, you still had good control in it for the price. We've played loads of the games where there's always one of those things they never quite get right, do they? The sound of music's interesting. I don't know. Just my only thought with this was we've just been around the block with these kind of games a bit recently. There's been quite a lot.
Yeah.
And this is better than average, but there's just been a lot of them. And I'm kind of a bit side scroller fatigue setting in, really, especially on the back of Insects in Space as well in this very, episode. But that said, this is a good one for the money. Another good budget side scroller, and it's got a bit of variety, and I like that. And is excellently put together. You can't argue about that.
Yeah.
So I think for what's there and for this price, it's derivative, but it's well put together derivative, and I'll take that over just crappy Wild Streets any day of the week. So this is the direction that the C64. If these were the games that were gonna, it was gonna die on. If these were the games on the hill of death for the C64, these aren't bad ones to die on with, are they? All around you, you've got these good, competent shooters put together by good teams with good graphics and good sounds. There's a good bunch of them, less Wild Streets, more of this kind of thing, I say. And I enjoyed my time with it. Like I say, the nuances of the game were the nuances of the game, but there's quite a lot in it for £3, isn't there, really?
Yeah.
I think it got a bit robbed with the score, I have to say. I think they always go for this, well, when like we've said, it's the classic 68%, what the hell are we doing? But just be honest. When a budget game is hitting the right numbers and it's doing the right thing and the graphics are good, give it the 80s and into the 90s if that's what it deserves. You did it with Insects in Space. How is that any less or any more of a game than this for the same money or just slightly less? This should be at least in the 80s. These are good budget games. I don't know how they can give Wild Streets 34%. So you're telling me that Wild Streets is just about half as good as this? Come on. No, it isn't.
No.
There's no way. It's just they're not comparative. And I noticed in Zapped they'd stopped giving all of the independent part scores, haven't they? Or did they do that some time ago? It's just one overall now for the games.
No, they do that. It was just they've been doing that. Budget titles have always just had a sort of...
No, it's all of them, because all of them had... Well, Insects in Space did, I think maybe the others didn't.
Yeah, I think that for those four, they've just... Because it's a compilation, they've not given it...
They've given it graphics and sounds, I suppose they can't really.
The normal ones do, yeah.
But Neutralizer, another good side-scrolling shoot-em up. Yes, I'm a bit fatigued with them, but more like this and less like the other things, I say. So good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, there we go. Don't neutralize this electro scan. We like that one.
No, I like that one.
Yeah, let's move on. We still have one game left, and let's see what that is. So Graham, tell us. It's another fourth dimension game, and this is Head the Ball.
It is. Now, this isn't a football game, which it could easily have been mistaken by that title. This is another one in the fourth dimension. This really should be Head, the Ball, because Head is the name of the character in it. Anyway, it got 84%, Jim Bad, and it's another kind of fourth dimension budget game, really. So it's another sizzler as well out of that lot. Obviously published by Hewson. This one's developed by Graft Gold, though, and it's coded by Jason Page. Now, he's a good coder and put some good stuff in here. And graphics are also Jason Page, Michael Field, and John Lilly. Musicians Jason Page. He's a good all-rounder, Mr. Page, when it comes down to it. There's some nice things in here. So what's all this Head the Ball about then? So you take control of Head, with your main objective being to rescue your girlfriend from Gobber's clutches. To accomplish this, you need to negotiate this globoid territory and the nailheads who inhabit it, as this is the only route to your beloved. To make this task a bit easier, you are able to bounce yourself into the air so that you can jump over things. Also, you have a limited firepower in the shape of 10 single shots and 2 smart bombs, just in case the game gets a bit tough. You also carry a shield, which can be used only once, but which protects you from lethal enemy contact. As you bound your way through the globoid territory, you will come across gems. These should be collected at all costs, as you will need something to offer Gobber for the return of your beloved. The more gems you can offer, the better your chance of having your girlfriend return safely. Each level of the globoid territory also has to be negotiated in a set time, so don't hang around, or your chances of rescuing your beloved will be wasted. Okay, makes sense. A nice title screen on this, I thought, and some decent music, some decent Jason Page music welcomes you. There's a nice arcade quality presentation to this whole thing. It's got the Graft Gold Slick written all over this. So it's got a nice Hewson Graft Gold kind of double whammy on this. So it's got that kind of slick.
It's Rasterbar Central.
It is, but I quite like that big bold brightness of it. So once you start the game, you're in the world of, the bouncing Head. So you are Head and you are bouncing on platforms, I guess. The mainstay of the game is it's a side-scrolling bounce-along platformer, I guess, in the vein of a bouncing Mario. A little bit. So if you mix Cauldron 2 with the Mario, you'd probably get something sort of like this, a little bit. So the mainstay of the game is the upper quadrant. It's split into kind of 2/3 game, maybe 3/4 game, And then the bottom is the UI, which shows you your current time indication, the score, fire with the number of bullets that you have left. Remember, you only got 10. The number of lives you have left and the number of gems you've collected. So the idea here is you've got to carefully navigate your way. It's a push scroll game, which is quite interesting in of itself. So you've got to push scroll your way from left to right, navigating your way over the various obstacles, avoiding the various enemies that are there to kill you, or otherwise what they call globoids. So you've got to avoid the globoids. And you can control things. You can shoot, but you've only got 10 of those, but you can sort of bounce onto the platforms, and you can increase your bounce by sort of pushing up more. And the more you do that, the more bounce you get, and then you can bounce higher. Similar to the way Cauldron 2 controlled, actually, that. Similar in that way. So joystick controls the action here. Left and right is bounce, left bounce, right. Up is bounce higher. Down is change your current weapon. Another down to change weapon, Adrian. Another one. But because you don't really need down.
Yeah, you're not constantly falling though, are you? So.
Well, yeah, you don't need down in this, really. Fire is use your current weapon. Fairly straightforward controls for a game of this type, I think. So the challenge here is to try and get through these levels with only the limited range of weaponry that you have and bullets, because you got to really, you can't go in this blasting away. You can for the first 2 or 3 bits, but by that point, you'll have things flying at you from different angles, and you got to think you don't have to kill every enemy in this game. Sometimes you just got to bounce and get out the way. And that's how you've got to play this game. It's a game of tactical control of the bouncing. Now, it reminded me of another bouncing game we had where there was them bouncing balls in like a row in that kind of puzzle challenge.
Yeah.
So it's similar in that, except it's left to right. And it's push scroll, which is unusual because you'd think this game wouldn't be, but it is. So it's more controllable than Cauldron 2, but it has that vibe. You got to carefully bounce across the screen, push it along. You got to collect those little diamond things that appear. They're always in awkward places, but you collect those, and then you'll get to the end of the level, and then or scene before your time runs out, and then you'll get to the next one. They're fairly short, actually, as the levels go. They're not massive, long levels. But there's quite a lot of them, and there's little interstitials in between as well. Presentation's quite nice. Like I said, the game is kind of 3/4 of the screen, really. And there's some nice graphics in there, I thought. Nicely well presented, and nice shading and little details. The shading effects on things look quite nice. They look quite, what they are. Good use of colour as well. The background sizes of the characters, I suppose it means you get a good overview, because again, it's another one where you feel like you're kind of far back, but it's actually sprite-sized, but you do feel like you're sort of back from the action. But in this one, it kind of works because it gives you a chance to plan your bouncing around a bit, which is quite nice. It's like I said, it's not unlike a bouncy, kind of less featured Mario. If Mario was a P and was set in space, then you'd probably be, similar to this if you bounced a lot. That bouncing does take some getting used to. I think the game is quite hard. That's until you get used to that. And it's quite frustrating because you will die a lot in this, try and bounce your way along. It reminded me of when you're in a level in Whiz Ball, when before you get the full control of the Whiz Ball, it's like that, because there's a level in that where it bounces and you can control it, and it kind of feels a bit like that. And I think I've come to understand with these bouncing games is that it feels like you're out of control until you figure out how to control the bounce. And when you control that, you control the game, which sounds daft to say, but you can spend a lot of time fighting the bounce in these games. And what I learned from Cauldron 2 and a few others is that you've got to go with it and just start to think about where you're going to land. And then when you make the transition from being an out-of-control bouncer to a controlling bouncer, which sounds bad, but I mean it in a nice way, these games actually start to reveal themselves a little bit to you, and then you start to get more out of them. So there's a nice little platform bouncy collector type game here with some really nicely detailed sprites and backgrounds, and it's all pretty well polished. It's not a glitch in sight in this game. It controls exactly as it's meant to. I quite liked it. I quite liked the sort of the minimalism in some of it. I quite liked some of the graphic tonalities. I like the fact that you're bright green with a little eye and a face, and you are indeed a head. And I like that the enemies have got a little bit of colour variety, so they're not just monotone. They've got little helmets on, and there's characterization in everything in this game, and that's one of the things that I think is really cool. Certainly one of the things that was missing out of the Super Wonderboy a little is that the sprites, they just felt a little bit underdeveloped, so they didn't quite have the character. This has got quite nice little animations, and the way they walk and move around, it's got little details that you think of in these games. It is incredibly difficult though, and there's no sort of escaping that. But there's a nice pace and tone. It's got some nice arcade-style interstitials in between bits, which is always nice to see. That's a Houston thing. Like I said, that I've put in my notes here, that's a very Houston way of presenting things. It gave me a side-scrolling Nebulous vibe, this. It's like if you made a side-scrolling game out of Nebulous, you'd have this. Not as well put together, but it gave me the same kind of Houston vibes. The diddle-diddle-doo into the first level, and all that. It's got that kind of vibe. Small green character trying to navigate obstacles. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It is punishing. Getting sent back to the start of levels when you lose a life, that's always a harsh thing to do, that in a game. But they are short levels. I don't know. you'll do that quite a lot, but some of them, I think you've got to learn to avoid and control the bounce in this game when you do that. The things that annoy the crap out of you, and they will at the start, will start to ease off a little. I like what I played here. There's an accomplished C64 quality to this again, and it felt like a solid and very well-coded experience. Again, scrolling had no bugs, the game pace was good, the controls are challenging, but not Cauldron 2 challenging, and the whole thing had a really nice kind of jovial vibe. An interesting game for the money, Adrian. Certainly at the, £3, whatever it was, end. I think this is another winner from Houston for this Fourth Dimension. What a cracking compilation it was, because I really enjoyed my time playing Head the Ball, and I really didn't think I would. Another good little game, that. 84%, I think, in Zap. I'd say that's probably about right for something like this, actually. But what did you think?
I think you liked it a hell of a lot more than I did, because I'm not a fan of platform games where I can't control the timing of when I jump.
Oh, okay.
So only being able to do a jump when I land, because I'm constantly bouncing, it just frustrated me to the point where I turned it off. I couldn't. Okay. I just couldn't. I tried and I tried, and I, was patient, and I took my time, and I tried, and no, it just. I think that the other game I think we played was Cataball or Hopping Mad.
Cataball, yeah, something like that.
It was Hopping Mad, which was Cataball was the early version. Hopping Mad was the one reviewed. That was kind of weird as well. But I didn't get quite so annoyed with that one because there's something about it. This, like you said, it's like Cauldron 2. I think it's the reason why I don't like Cauldron 2, because I just don't like constantly bouncing, and I have to wait and then move and then do a jump.
That's the strategy part of it.
Yeah, and it frustrates me. I don't like those kind of platformers, so they don't.
That's fair.
But so I found it frustrating, infuriating, and it just made me not like the game. However, there is a lot to like here. So I'll agree with you on all the other points. My enjoyment of it does not alter the fact. The visuals and the music are very nice. They're all very good. The opening little cutscene is good to see. The production values are high. None of that is affected by me not liking the game. It moves at a good pace. The scrolling is smooth. The sprite designs are very good. Everything about this is really well put together. And you're right, it's that Houston nebulous kind of feel to it. Yeah, absolutely spot on. I just couldn't get on with the nature of jumping not being in my control. So I gave up and I moved on. I just couldn't get along with it. I also didn't like the fact that there's an enemy right at the very start.
Yeah,
that you have to you basically have to start and be pushing up. I think that's a cheap ploy.
I managed to avoid that all the time.
Yeah,
but I think Inky's just getting used to it, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you don't be pushing up, then he'll hit you before you can shoot him. But then again, only having 10 bullets. Bullets not. I didn't like the fact bullets don't come back if you die. It's like, it just makes it.
Yeah, it's tough.
That makes it just harder. Yeah, there is probably a decent game here if you can persevere with that control method. Obviously, you did. That's fine. And I'm not, but for me, it put me off the game. I can see why it got the score, because there's a lot to like here, like I said, and I think it is a very well put together game. Again, there's all those little bits and everything like that. I just couldn't get on with the control method. That's
not for everyone.
But that's more me than the game or one or the other sort of thing. I don't know. But everything around it, I really wanted to like it because I think it looks and sounds and plays and sort of and runs great. Just didn't get on with the control method, I'm afraid.
Like I said, until you make that transition between, because the controls do feel like they're fighting you a lot in this. And like you say, once you start, because it is a puzzle game, not just a side-scrolling collector. But that's, again, it's one of those games where I don't know why. I always persevere with some of these. Like Cauldron 2, I have a really weird love-hate relationship with it. And I probably would develop that with this over time. But probably. I can see why you would do that. I can see the anger in it. I can certainly see that. Where it would
and I think maybe I would have persevered this a little more if I wasn't sent back to the beginning every time.
Yeah, that is brutal.
I think if you died and you start where you died.
Spawned where you died, yeah.
And you're like, right, okay, I buggered that up, I'll get better. But having to do everything again.
It is a bit cruel.
It just got a bit repetitive. And I find it, I made a decision that this isn't for me. It's not a plot. It's like what we said about the beginning of Whizball. We did say about the beginning of Whizball being punitive and cruel and a bit hard until you get until you get those get those controls. And here I just never felt that I never felt that I was fully in control. So maybe I didn't give it enough time, but I just never did. Anyway, there you go. But I can see why it got its score, and I appreciate, like I said, all the technical aspects around it. There we go. That's our last game this week. It's a veritable feast of games.
It is.
We've had, Graham. We had Insects in Space, which is a very competent, we'll say budget, because they're all budget, these games, when you put them all together.
Yeah.
All £3.25. A competent sort of Defender sort of knockoff from Sensible Software,
Good
which is
farewell
very good.
from Sensible, yeah.
Yeah, very good one. We had the Risible Wild Streets.
Awful
Just
thing.
one of the worst things we've seen in ages. The Fighter Bomber, Fighting the Machine.
Yeah.
We had Super Wonderboy, which was a decent enough conversion of an interesting arcade game. It had some elements to it.
Yeah, just let down by its finishing, I think.
Pro Mountain Bike Simulator, which was let down by having to get off the bike.
Yeah, simulating walking.
Yeah. Neutralizer, which was unexpectedly good. We enjoyed that one. And Head the Ball, the final one.
Yeah.
Which will all depend on whether you get on with the control system.
Absolutely true.
So there we go. A good week. I think March has gotten off to a good. I think that was a good balance of games.
There's some good ones in there. Thankfully, I mean, it's sad that it's the last Sensible game on the 64, but you know what? On to bigger things for them.
I think sort of 4 decent games. Only one, Fighter Bomber, I suppose you would call decent, just not brilliant.
Yeah, it's just if you like it, you like it. There's no way around, no arguing with that, really.
Yeah. Next week, coming up to finish off March, we've got 2 more Fourth Dimension games. First one of those is Cyberdyne Warrior, or what the Retrograde people did before Retrograde.
Yep, so it's Retrograde basically, but
we've got Blue Angels.
Another one.
I think that's another flight sim.
Ugh.
Yeah, I think that one. Dynamite Ducks.
Okay.
Tintin on the Moon.
Okay.
The Champ, which is a boxing game. Steel Thunder.
It's an album by
by Robert Plant. And finally, the Fourth Dimension one, Mission Impossible.
Okay.
The final one of those. Yeah, so that's that. If you wish to support the podcast, you can do that. You can head over to Patreon and join our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. Price of a pint of beer, less than a pint of beer these days. Sandwich probably. Get the episodes early and advert free. You can get access to our Discord server and the sort of high score challenges and stuff when we have suitable games to sort of challenge yourselves upon and things like that, and the chat and stuff that goes on in there, and that's all cool. You can buy us a Ko-fi at kofi.com/Zapped to the Past. You can go there as well, that's cool. Or just share and like us on X and Facebook and all those kind of things, which we really like and appreciate. Just get in contact with us, email us, drop us a line at our website, zappedtothepast.com, or go buy some stuff that we've got our Ace merch at zappedtothepast.shop. Buy yourself a Zapped to the Past mug or a t-shirt. It's all good stuff. So that's it. That's the first half of March out of the way. Not too bad.
No, not at all.
Not too bad. You got anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think these be interesting to see the other 2 games of the Fourth Dimension, see what they're like. So
on that note, I think we'll say goodbye for this week, and we'll see you again. So as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And I have been using the headlights in my forehead all week. And I will see you again next week, brightly lit as I look in your window.
Brightly lit, done for free.
Absolutely. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.